And we're live. Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Altered Weekly Online League AWOL Season 2 Monday, Weekly 3. I am Blue, here with my new co-caster. How about you introduce yourself?
Hello. I'm Runefolk, also Panic calls me Rune from time to time. And yeah, excited to be here for the first time. I've casted 2 times already, but not AWOL, so be here as well now.
Exciting times, bringing in new folks all the time. Pretty soon, Rune's going to be running the place entirely and be in my spot and just going to be talking all the time. It's crazy. Either way, we are here for the third Monday weekly. Exciting times in general. We're getting close to that 128 mark once again. Where are we at the moment?
Ooh, 6 people left to the 128.
Ooh, only six left. Make sure if you're watching
Yeah.
this and happen to be wanting to play, you get in now. Get in now before it closes out. 128 is the max, and then we'll
Elon
just
got
see
in,
where it
so
goes from
only
there.
one of my teammates is missing.
Keelan guy waiting till the last minute as usual, potentially. And did Void get in?
I don't see him yet.
Oh, interesting.
So
Either way,
maybe not
speaking
joining
of
today.
yeah, speaking of players joining in general, any person that you're particularly excited to watch today?
Um, Not particularly. Maybe Gino showing up, getting third or fourth on Saturday on the Dutch Championship and playing Run. Pretty exciting. Maybe we see him today as well, or maybe some other people on Run. That's all the like getting inspiration from decks that perform well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. I saw that as well, and I'd be very interested to see how Gino plays that. I saw the list, obviously, that we have up there, but we'll be curious to see if that shows up today. And also, speaking of heroes that aren't typically used, I was mentioning to you earlier, we may be able to catch them at Saudi play. I saw a player, Scolo Padre, who is one of the originators of the Saudi play that I also like to play myself. But we'll see if we get to see any of those as we go through the day here in general. Those are definitely on my list as far as exciting things to watch for. But overall, are you expecting to see some continued dominance from other heroes like Sigismar, Tasia, Aphanis?
I think the Sigismund Taja Farmers are still pretty much on there. Um, I think from the last results, Taja might be one of the better in the better spots now. I think on the AQZ's Thursday event, like on the top 6, there were 3 Tajas and 3 Yizmi players. Surprisingly, 2 Akashas and only 1 Afanas. So maybe Taja's now taking the top spot, but of course it was only one event. And I think Sigismund dropped a bit in popularity and tournament results, but Afanas and Taja are pretty much still up there. And we've speculated a bit that Afanas might actually drop a bit more, and we're already seeing some crazy spindles on the marketplace. But we never know, and we probably will see a fair share of Afanas today as well.
Yeah, I imagine it's never going to go completely away, at least until those spindles stop being good, because they seem like they're always pretty good regardless. But I've also seen a little bit of change as far as a lot of use of some Bravos heroes, particularly Cojo. I recently did a video and the highest amount of the hero pick was Cojo with 18, I believe, in a 128 setup tournament. So it seems like Bravos is getting a little bit popular and it's doing quite well. I believe in the last few AWOLs, we've seen some Bravos players be able to compete for the top spots. I even think in the last Monday one of the undefeated players was in fact a Kojo player, if I'm correct.
Yeah, Coach is for sure one of the uprising decks, I think. Also on the Wednesdays, Simon got a 4-2 with his Kojo list, and I still admire that Hua Mulan, that Simon has on this list. That's just an amazing card. And yeah, I think Kojo will probably still also be one of the better decks now. And I think the biggest addition to Kojo is just the Serengar, getting getting a common card that can actually draw a card. Probably one of the tools that Kojo is most excited for. But yeah, I think Kojo is generally a more flexible hero. I think Atsadi and Basira are forcing you into different lines, and Coach just lets you play more freely what you want to play.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting. The Seringer in of itself just makes it a lot more viable in like Bravo decks, right? It's not like a lot of people were playing the rare out of faction Ozma in the first place to get some draw. Didn't really seem too consistent, and it obviously took up that rare slot that seemed pretty tight in just about every Bravo deck that people were playing in general. So not too surprised there. We will have one less draw a lot, Akesha in play today because you are with me. Any hopes to see someone else bring it out in general before, we get
Yeah,
started here in a few minutes?
of course, I've already seen that Newbie Boy is already in the tournament, and that guy has also performed very well on Akasha the last few weeks, always getting at least a 4-2, I believe, and two of the times a 5-1 as well. So yeah, that's also for sure a Kesha player to look out for. And last Thursday, I've defeated him on a 4-0, I believe. And my list was pretty much counter to his because he didn't run any permanent removal.
Mm,
So maybe without a hard counter like that, he can actually also get a 6-0 this time, maybe. Because
nice.
last Thursday, I was the only player that managed to beat him. So yeah,
I gotcha.
for sure, still
Yeah.
some Kesha players left.
Definitely. I think that deck list itself is I mean, not the deck list, but at least the hero with Akesha and potentially using the Katagir is something that is probably on the next of my list. I had one already, but adjusting it for Trial by Frost will be something up there because I have this nice Baku unique that I like using that has when it leaves Expedition, causes your opponent to discard and you draw a card as well. And then from hand, you can discard or it's either discard or sent to reserve any character of 4 or less. So,
That's decent, yeah.
yeah, not too bad. I enjoy it. It looks pretty too. Like the different effects. Obviously, as we go up through the unique rankings, we have 2 minutes left, and I believe we already have hit the 128 players. Did Keelan get in time?
Kilon
I don't
did
know.
get in, yeah. We see last minute join of Sabai. I think that's also one of the names I always look for.
Mhm,
After you Magongs or Magonex
mhm.
joined as well. I know he plays all kinds of decks that aren't meta. The last two times I've seen them were on Akasha and Atsadi. So maybe we get something completely new, like maybe Arjun or whatever he's cooking. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
also always an exciting player to see what decks they bring or he brings.
and we are just about 15 seconds away from the start here. Excited to get going. I would like to see some Arjun play. Always interesting to see how people are able to at least get 20 cards in the reserve with Arjun and see what they can do with it and just discard all of them to anchor stuff. But maybe we'll see that. Maybe we won't. A lot of players to watch, and we'll have to choose carefully as we go through these rounds of Swiss as we hit the mark, and we can take a quick refresh here and see what we have available in the first round. All right, we do have the first round in. No one started quite yet. Anyone that you want to take a look at as we scroll through here?
Oh, I I was thinking about someone, but I was looking for table 24, but Keelan guy is on the table, so it's a bit team biased. But I was more focused on I can't pronounce the name sadly, but I've played against them on the ladder, and because I let them win on purpose, they've invited me to Worlds if it ever if it ever is in France that I can stay there for all the Worlds.
And what table's that?
Mm, 24.
24. Sure, let's just go for it. Who cares if Keelan guy is on it?
Yeah, we're just rooting against Keelan for today.
For today, at least. We'll go to it.
Yeah.
And I just noticed that our sub alert worked. Nice. I'm glad it actually worked this time. Excited that my widgets are setting up. I saw it pop up right there. If anyone want to see after you subscribed, it's like right up here in the corner. So we're waiting for the game art to pop up here, and then we'll switch over to the gameplay. And we are in. Let's switch on over. Everything is lining up somewhat correctly for us to watch, and we will get going. A faunus versus a faunus. Good times.
Already the first mirror.
First mirror match on the first setup here. Both players just stacked with Evo and ready to face off here. Anything we can expect in particular from Keelan guys, a Faunus deck list? I'm sure you've played it plenty with the AQZ folks.
We're actually not playing that much against each other. We're just talking about deck lists, and yeah, the last time he was trying, I think, more of an exhaust line, and he didn't think it's too good. So the second time he played it, he was a bit sad he didn't have the time to change it back. So maybe we still see some Nilan plays, the Nilan plays today, but yeah, I'm not too sure what he's actually playing.
Gotcha. It's always interesting to me when we see the changes or the different variations in a Faunus deck list, whether they're going to use a rare Mage Dancer or a common Mage Dancer, whether they use a rare Magical Training or a common Magical Training, and then just the different types of Spindle Harvesters or uniques that we see come out from each Faunus and how they make that work for their individual deck list is always the specific thing that I try to find, especially in like a mirror matchup of Afanas.
And I think the Athanas matchup is more focused on trying to gather resources and being efficient on trading expeditions. And as soon as you have some good card advantage, you can try to get pop-off turns to maybe single advance and your opponent not advancing at all, or just trying to double advance and getting a lead that way. But I think it's a bit more difficult than I just said it is. But
Yeah,
yeah, that's usually how I see the matchup, and it's not the most exciting matchup to watch, in my opinion.
hey, you gotta take 'em where you can get it. I do like seeing the sabotage come out as far as the Tooth Fairy getting included in deck lists. I feel like sometimes it doesn't get included as much. And specifically, I guess I used to like the rare Tooth Fairy a lot because it has that one cost from reserve, and it was just a fun little card that you can use as a after you in a way. But it feels like a lot of folks are keeping those rare slots open and just being fine with the two costs from reserve Tooth Fairy and take the sabotage from hand.
Yeah. I like the one cost Tooth Fairy in Akasha or Lindeef even more because Lindeef actually gets value out of the one cost from reserve so that it can sacrifice it with more value. And
Definitely.
here we already see the Conjuring Seal to draw cards.
Yeah, trying to gather up those resources like you were talking about, and we even see the out of faction rare Spindle Harvester, not a unique, come out of
Yeah.
the top of Faunus here. Not something you would always see, but still fun to see when we're getting it put out there. It does not, in fact, have the usual ability to resupply like the rare Spindle Harvesters in the Muna setup, but always nice to keep out there and get some boosts going.
Maybe we are therefore seeing some u unique, sneezer shrooms that you just replace your rare sneezer shrooms with the rare, spindle harvesters,
Mhm,
but I'm not sure what kind of uniques they're running. For Keelan Guy, I know for sure that he's running, I believe, at least 2 spindles and maybe 1 sneezer shroom,
mhm.
but for Pete, I'm just not gonna try the French part. I'm not sure what they are playing.
Yeah,
And
no
there
worries.
we see the mentioned Sneezer Shroom.
Yep, there is the Sneezer Shroom, the first unique that we have seen in play. You wanna go ahead and read off what it does?
Yeah, it's anchoring itself from hand if you put a card from your hand in reserve. And when it leaves the expedition zone, if it has 1 boost, you may return a card from your reserve to your hand.
Always good to
So
have
it's
that card return.
yeah, so it's like the Sneezer Shroom. It's like the Spindle Harvester uniques, but as a Sneezer Shroom. And I think the sad part about Sneezer Shroom uniques is that you mostly have a condition on your anchored effect.
Hmm. Yeah, I believe I have one of those as well that I've gotten from a Kickstarter, not the one that returns cards, but it has, like, the conditional anchored effect, which always makes it feel like, "Okay, I'd rather just not do that." But, if it has the return effect that the keyline guy has on theirs at the moment, I guess you can use it, especially if you don't have another spindle harvester, another unique you want to play. I've seen some other fun uniques that I've seen people use with a faunus, whether it's like a Flamel or something else at random. But either way, fun to see the Trial by Frost cards come out here with the Moth to a Flame. Always nice to play that from reserve for 2 costs and get a boosted character as well as a 2/2/2 mana moth.
Yeah, and I believe one of the better plays here now from the upper Afanas would just be a helping hand onto the Spindle Harvester. So it's still outstanding the Neither Shroom and the Moth.
Yeah, a lot of stuff
But
that could be played here for the 1 cost, potentially the Beauty Sleep or the Helping Hand, but not quite sure if they have it available, and we just see another, Spindle Harvester come out instead.
yeah, and I believe if Keelan is watching the stream, he forgot to write Moth in the chat when he created his Moth.
Oh, okay. Is that a requirement
Yeah.
now? I forgot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whenever Keelan plays Moths, he has to write Moth in all caps in the chat.
Okay. Well, Hyundai, if you're watching or listening at the very least, you messed up, and now you have to forfeit the match because you didn't write out Moth.
Exactly.
We have been
More
going 1 for
mistakes.
1, on
Yeah.
the board in general. Anything that we should be looking for here as far as this mirror matchup to potentially get ahead before just leaving it up to a coin flip on a small step, giant leap, whoever goes first kinda setup?
We're, we're probably already looking at the card advantage, and we currently Keelan is pretty far behind with 2 cards to 4 in hand, and the reserve is equal, and yeah, but being 2 cards down in hand doesn't feel too good. There, the Conjuring Seal made some work to get basically 1 additional card into hand.
We do see Keelan Guy the ability to return a card from the reserve as far as when the Sneezer Shroom leaves, so they're able to gain a little bit back, right, on the hand advantage, obviously still being behind a little bit and being able to see the first unique. We'll see if that is able to catch them up a little bit or if it's that Conjuring Seal that's gonna allow the top of Faunus to take the lead, and speaking of drawing cards, we see a Baba Yaga.
Yeah, but committing half their mana this turn, so the upper Arcanis has pretty much all the tools to react to this, and Keelan is pretty limited on which cards to play this turn. We see the Sneether Shroom to be anchored and probably get a lot of boosts to stick around for the next turn. But the hero side looks very promising for with that Sneether Shroom that's just winning with 5 mounts. That's
Yep, we do see that Off You Go pop up as well, boosts up that Baba Yaga, but we will see that 1 cost immediately of the Mage Dancer come out. Only 1 mana left for the Keylon guy on the bottom of Faunus, and now it's kinda just free play for, the top of Faunus here just to see if they can catch up on both expeditions.
and I think the catching up part could be relatively easy with just a Beauty Sleep or an Off You Go in hand to win on the hero side, and the Mage Dancer just getting a ton of boosts. And this turn otherwise is also very painful because Keelan has to discard 2 cards from reserve
Speaking of
to
uniques, we do see one of those Flamels come out, and if you wanna take a look at that.
it's a dusk returning spell, and from reserve, yeah, you have to can pay 1 to resupply.
Yep. So not too bad for 3 costs.
There, as I mentioned, the Beauty Sleep does sleep the Sneezer Shroom to get a double expedition win this day,
Yeah,
and
big,
the Lamel
big,
immediately returning the
yeah, big day for the top of Faunus here with,
for sure.
and by sleeping that Sneezer Shroom does not get the card return by leaving the expedition. One of the downsides of having the "when I leave the expedition" opposed to at dusk effect, right? not
Yeah.
getting that card
Hmm.
return and having to get rid of 2 cards from the reserve, kinda ruining even more of the card advantage available despite having that Sneasel Shroom out for 3/5/3 still. Being down 2 spots on the Tumult is not the ideal scenario, especially just 1 away from getting into that small step range.
Yeah, and you probably expect the Afanas to already have the small step in hand with 4 cards. It's more than likely probably at this point, and
Yeah,
the amount of cards drawn.
yeah,
My dog's
exactly.
getting more confused about me standing at my desk. Just came up to me and now stands in front of me.
No worries, it's just excited to see you talking and standing around, right? So, no big deal.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it should be interesting. I'm not sure how many small steps are being ran by the top of Faunus here, but I'd have to imagine, like you mentioned as well, that we are just 1 advance away from potentially seeing it. Yeah. Elio, he definitely has a dog. Wi if he wasn't standing, maybe not as confused here, but either way, we get,
I'm using the standing desk very, very rarely, so my dog is a bit confused that I'm just standing instead of sitting.
ready just to sleep on his feet here, but standing around, moving around, making it difficult. We do see a mage dancer come out from the Keylon guy, finally get to see one from him being played, but only 2 cards available left to play here in 3 mana. So, we'll see if they're able to catch up from that double advance made by the other Faunus in the previous day, or if we're looking at a potential small step ending to this game.
Yeah, the second card can show the card in hand can surely be a one-cost card to get additional value out of the card and the helping hand, of course. But it still looks hard to compete with the Flamel and now Mage Dancer on the hero side.
Yep, we do see an off you go come out from the Keylon guy here, which will be definitely beneficial to prevent any possibility of a 2-0 advance. But we'll see how he splits the boosts. If he goes more onto the Sneezer Shroom, he does in
But we
fact.
know there's a beauty sleep in hand of the Afana, so the Sneasel just gets slept again.
Yep, Caesar gets slept again. We do not see another card return, more boosts, and we'll get that 1 advance, and we're about to find out if we have a small step.
Yeah,
And even if he doesn't have it realistically, Keelan Guy is still 2 advances of away from being able to do a small step of their own. So plenty of opportunities for the top of Faunus to draw into it or just advance on their own without getting the small step.
and also the beauty sleep in reserve is also a very big threat to anything that might enter the board. Or probably just the Sneasel Shroom that's already there.
So we see the play, and do we see it? Waiting, small step, giant leap. The, the anticipation can't take it. No, we don't see it. Okay,
Just a
sabotage.
shield carry.
It's pretty big to hit that helping hand. Not sure if there's anything, and then it looks like
Oh.
Keelan guy is potentially just going to be like, you know what? I don't have much else. I'm going to go ahead and just small step myself here. Go ahead and take the win.
Yeah. Maybe the upper funnels will just pass now and Killer might still win, but that's very unlikely.
Yeah, I'd probably say it's unlikely as well, but no small step giant leap finish, but we will see a beauty sleep finish here, hitting that sneezer shroom one more time for good measure. It stayed out a bunch, just not the same way that the Keelan guy was hoping that it would stay out for a few different turns. And we'll see the first win go to this top Faunus here. Uh, I can try to pronounce it as well, but I'm probably gonna be bad at it. I'm just gonna call him Tempted, and we'll leave it at that. Congrats on the win there on the Afanis mirror match. Let's take it back here and see what other games we potentially have to watch as we scroll down here to see what is available. A lot of games to finish. We can just
I think there's right now an Altered Aces team battle going on table 4.
Table 4, let's take a look at what we got going here.
Carnage versus Clem.
Scrolling up really quick, it's a pretty close one. Switching on over, we have the Cojo versus the Sigismar matchup, the battle of the token generators. Also seeing some Trial by Frost cards pop up here for both players. Interesting to see how people have included those as far as their decks.
Yeah, the Mobile Armory seems to be a new inclusion in the Sigismar deck that isn't too often seen, I believe.
Yeah, Mobile Armory, you get the rare Tiny Jail being able to use it twice with just the cooldown after the first play. On the top side with the Cojo, we will see the activation of the Icebound Peak, it looks like, to pull out a Dragon Shade and to give everyone a boost, which will be a nice setup here, even with 2 mana left for the Sigismar.
Yeah. The Tiny J can't be played again. I don't know if there's anything that can catch up with the stats that the Cojo is currently putting out. So maybe we'll see one more day.
One
The
more
Cojo
day.
already being 2 mana up in this matchup also must feel very good.
Yeah, we do see the Legat come out to get a sabotage off, potentially hitting that salvager that had the fleeting removed. But the Kojo will get that double advance, being up on mana resources and even realistically up on hand resources with a Haven Bravos Bastion out. And I do want to point out that we did see that rare Ozma in the Kojo deck, which not typically something that you would see included, but they did have two different landmarks and slash permanents available to make it work. And yeah, more card draw. Didn't even need the common.
Yeah, I believe the Ozma still probably a bit better in the Basira list, where you can get an easier second boost on a character. But with Arlecano Milk and the Icebound Peak, you still get the boosts, even if it's a bit harder. But and of course the Haven that's also boosting a lot.
Yeah,
And
Keelan
getting
guy.
the resupply into a Tracer, that's a very good pull.
Yeah, definitely. Keelan guy pointing out in the chat because he did in fact not say moth in that last game. It is why he lost. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a good matchup. Glad we got to get in there. We will see the resupply and a second Haven Bravos Bastion pop up. That Tracer will be quite huge if it is played, which we probably will see it played. Be curious to see what the Sigismar has available to take care of these boosted up characters because the Tiny Jail will not be able to hit a lot of them once they come out, especially from the reserve.
Yeah. Oh, and we see just already a spell from hand.
Do you see the
Probably
intimidation come out? And it's going to hit the Legat.
okay. Just being able so it's just a mana trade where the coach says, "Well, I'm ahead on mana, so you're going down even further, and I can just react to it." I believe.
Exactly. It'll be interesting to see what the Sigsmar decides to do here. If they're going to potentially, the Tiny Jail is useless at the moment with no characters out. Don't know if they want to play the Legat again or if they want to play the other two cards available to them within their hand. We'll
I
see
think
a
the
lot
legate is
here on this.
probably. I think the legate is probably setting up for the tiebreaker because it's hitting anything that would go into reserve. But it's already also likely that the Cojo with the boost it's able to get this turn to just double advance or block the Sigisma on one side.
I'm definitely excited to see the innovations coming out from Bravos, whether it's Kojo or any other hero. Big fan of the faction in general. Although I do show Ortis down deep in my heart, I do love Bravos. And plus I have a really nice Bravos unique that I want to play more. So that's exciting to me.
Yeah,
And we'll
Bravos are always fun to play.
yeah, we'll see we're still waiting on the Sigismar here, and we will see another Foundry or Mobile Armory come out, rather. I'm getting my armors mixed up. And despite the fact that I introduced this card to everyone, I just keep on messing it up. You never know. But we will see a one cost Tiny Jin being played, just slow play from the Cojo player, trying to get that advance and setup that they need.
And I believe now with all the cards shown, and we know whatever that the Sigismar can't play another card. I believe it's just game that with the Tracer and the Chiron in reserve.
Yeah, they can just play what they need. They'll get the appropriate amount of boosts. Can't play anything. We know it's the same card that got returned to the hand, and we know the Tiny Jail can't be played. So we'll just see a pass here, and we'll see a Kojo W here in the first round.
Yeah, interesting to see, and also interesting the new and adjusted Sigismar list with the mobile armories.
Definitely. It's curious to see what the purpose on that is. It seems like the idea is just to have more bodies out there when you're using the one cost Ortis Trooper as a rare slot, and then you can essentially just have another 111 set up there and potentially also set up for anything that you need a requirement as far as a permanent on the board. But I doubt we're probably going to see any quick effects activating the anywhere effect of the mobile armory, but would be cool if someone actually set that up. Either way, we do see the Kojo take the W here. Congrats to Bravos. Sigismar not on top.
Yeah, good to see. And I believe that Cojo in general has a pretty solid matchup into Sigismar.
As we go back, we'll see if we have any more games here left in round one. Thank you for everyone that has been joining us thus far. We are all filled up here, 128 players for the Altered Weekly Online League, AWOL Season 2, Monday Weekly, number 3. I am Blue. I am joined with my new co-caster, first time here on the AWOL stream, Runefolk, also known as Rune. And we are looking here for another game. Still, how many we got left here? Maybe one,
I believe
two?
there are 3 tables left.
Sweet.
Um, on table 58 is, as I mentioned, Newbie Boy probably on Akesha against Namu Renai. But if you want to watch at some of the other 2 tables,
I
can also
mean,
of those.
we'll take a look at it. With Akesha, we may be in for going to the time limit, right? So let's take a look.
Yep.
And we are adjacent, maybe not the time limit, but we do see the fun little Eat Me energy bars being played. So it looks like the Akesha has recently gotten bumped back.
Yeah, and there's already a second Sakuraru in reserve, so probably not only been bumped back once
And it doesn't
out
matter. We
there.
see we see the small step just in time to get to watch it played. Newbie Boy taking the W over the Kojo. We don't see two Kojos take the first round there. We may have seen one that we hadn't watched, but either way, seemed like that was a good game. A lot of fun. Let's go ahead and go back here as we're rounding out here in the first round, almost heading into round two. Few minutes left available. We'll see how many games we have left here. One looks like one left now. Two left. One's at 99%.
99% means I think that the game is in tiebreak.
Yeah, it's usually what it means. Let's see if we can jump in there real quick and see how the tiebreaker is going. We are, in fact, in a tiebreaker. Tasia versus a Sierra. Ooh.
Oh yeah, both heroes can get very good stats in the tiebreaker. So let's see how big the stats will get. I think funny tiebreakers are sometimes like fun because they can't really put out stats at all and just try to remove or sleep the opponent's characters in the tiebreaker. But Sierra is definitely just trying to put out as many brass bucks as possible, which we already see. And also Icebound Hollow, which will now get triggered.
And we do get to see the Gibble, Gibble, Gerbil come out. Probably won't play it for the 6 cost and is probably gonna take the quick effect to get the Brass Bug Hive activation again. Maybe I could be wrong, but It seems like that's the ideal play, especially if they have other cards in hand to play at this point.
But it's still a 6 mana, I think, 8/8/8, so still a
Yep.
lot of sets.
Still good amount of stats, so we'll see if we in fact see the full 6 mana play here. They do know everything that the Tasia has. Only 1 Muna Caregiver left to play. That 888 is probably gonna be enough if they in fact just wanted to go ahead and play it.
But they wouldn't even need to, and the game would also just
Yeah.
already be won.
And we see the Keylon Burst for good measure. Knock out some stats just in case there's some mystical invisible card that the Tasia has. I have seen that bug before, by the way, BGA, where I thought the opponent was out of cards and they in fact still had a card in hand, and I was super confused. But either way, we will see the Sierra take that one. Always good to see Sierra do well. It's probably one of my favorite Axiom heroes as far as being able to just play a bunch of stuff from reserve. For liking
One of your
Axiom,
three favorite Axiom heroes.
one of my 3 favorite Axiom heroes, top 3 favorite Axiom heroes, actually, if you can believe that, puts it pretty high up the list. Let's, switch on over here, see if we're done with the round.
Yes, the other
Uh,
game might have just ended to a small step. I've seen that there was an Athanas that was
that setup here.
also
Yeah, and
on Expedition.
we are
Great.
in fact in round 2 at this point. Thank you again once for everyone that is watching. Moving into round 2 of the Swiss of the AWOL season 2, Monday weekly number 3. We're at a full 128 players, and I believe we only had a few that dropped out as far as prior to the setup here, so that's pretty cool. Let's take a look to see what we have available here. Any names standing out to you that we want to take a look at?
I've just seen two players I think I know the name of, but not have, I haven't seen too many games. I have to look for the table again.
Hmm?
Give me a second.
Yeah, no worries. We got a minute. It's probably just waiting on game art at this point anyway.
Oh, table 18. I haven't seen either player play before.
Mhm.
Unite versus Nit, but I've for sure seen Nit on the post on the marketplace.
Nice. So we'll take out some folks that we may have not gotten to see play quite yet on stream, and I'll
And
pull it up
I
here.
think just looking at players that you haven't seen as much of might also be nice instead of always looking at the same players.
Yeah, I agree, especially in these early rounds when we have some time and availability with so many players signing up for these tournaments. Get some new blood on stream, get to watch them play, see what's going on here. And we do see a Basira off of Unite on the top
Yeah.
side here, and a Tasia on the bottom here for Nid 07.
And we see the Basira running Blade Dance and having it resupplied off of the Haven, which you don't really like to see because it's now just a 0/0/0 in reserve. And you're very sad to play it for 3 mana.
And gotta, as usual, seeing those Blade Dancers pop out here and an early Haven Bravos Bastion. So that's always a nice thing to see when you're playing at least Bravos at this time because you're not seeing it anymore in Axiom. Ha 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 ha.
And from the Taja side, the Mona Druid never feels like the scariest opener, but for sure with the follow-up Aloe Vera, it can get very scary very fast. And yeah, so the Basira is now in a spot where they pretty much have to somehow deal with this Aloe Vera, or maybe get a double advance, but I'm not sure if that's possible for them. But yeah, with the Tiny Gen, it definitely seems possible. And the boosts from the Haven and Basira.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Deciding
Yeah, the
not
fact that
deciding
yeah,
not to win on the companion expedition with the second Tiny Gen.
yeah, it's interesting that they decided to do that. They definitely had enough stats to take at least a double advance here, especially knowing the fact that with them opting to use the additional effect of the aloe vera and not get rid of the Moona Druid, but they probably wouldn't have had anything available in hand to work with, and especially with having no mana, right?
Yeah.
Wonder if that was a
So
misplay or they had something else in mind.
to me, it pretty much seems like a misplay, but yeah, maybe it still works out for them.
That's why we're here on the cast because we know everything more than the players, even though we occasionally play ourselves. It's because we know the most. That's why you see our pretty faces. But either way, hope anyone that's playing is not watching. Promise we're not better. But either way, we do have a advances going through here, all equal on the tumult as we advance going forward, and we see a unique. Why don't you tell me what we got going here as far as the unique
That's
from the
an
Basira?
Akloof I've actually been looking for myself. It's an Akloof that 5 costs and more for from hand and reserve. I think it's the requirement for the second effect. It when this gains a boost and you control a landmark, you draw a card, and with the Basira ability, you can give it a second boost to draw 2 cards when you play it, instead of the exhausting your opponent's reserve, which I think in this case would have also been pretty good to make the to force the Tager to play cards from hands and just um, discard a bunch from reserve. But
Yeah,
that got
and
destroying.
yeah, definitely. And after getting that double tiny Jin turn, able to have enough mana to activate its secondary effect there for it to gain 3 boosts right away will help them to at least advance on the companion side. But it looks like Tasia is going to take a double advance in the process.
No,
Oh,
the
it's right.
Tager
No
isn't
forest.
because the Dracana is on the wrong side.
Yeah, no forest on the on that side. So that is
The
quite unfortunate.
the Snoozer is on the wrong side, but yeah, I think
Yeah.
then the companion side wouldn't have advanced.
Yeah. Unfortunate. Seemed to not have any other card to play there other than the Tricana in order to just have something out and get the double advance. But either way, fun little play there. Got to see a fun unique as far as the Occlute is concerned. Gotta love card draw on Bravos, as we have mentioned before. But we are all even now at the very least and looking at a good game.
Now from reserve, this Aklud will be able to draw 3 cards, which is quite a lot for any Bravo Zero or for any hero in general.
Yeah, we'll have to spend 6 mana in order to do that, so I don't know if that is going to be the play, but at the very least, they would be able to draw 2 cards if they decided not to pay the additional to get the 3 boosts on it.
And we're seeing a Jack Frost to immediately just take that ability to draw 3 cards away and
Probably a good idea.
toss
Not
the
even
Aklud.
don't even give him the option. Jack Frost itself is one of my, favorite cards that I've seen, especially from sealed on the launch events and pre-release events. This seems like a nice card for the stats, 2 cost, and you have a little bit of interactable to move forward. I even like it in the out of faction, at least in sealed. I haven't messed with it in constructed yet, but I know at least one player in the Italian tournament was running the rare Jack Frost in Sigismar.
I've actually pulled a unique Jack Frost for orders myself. It's sadly worse than the rare because it has a condition on the exhaust and only 1 step more in mountain than the rare version. So
Yeah,
bit of a sad unique, but yeah.
unfortunate. It happens sometimes. We do see a unique Moona Druid come out that looks like it's about to get mana erupted potentially, but it has the effect of at dusk. If you control 3 or more characters, up to 1 target character gets anchored basically, but it doesn't matter. It just got erupted. It's in the discard pile.
Yeah, the coach now only being ahead 1 more mana and still down on the companions on the hero side to lose both expeditions at this point. So yeah,
Yeah, we'll see if they have anything available to them in hand. But you see the pass from the Tasia, so nothing with that 1 mana left. The Basira potentially could play something from hand. We'll wait. There's
if the Basira is able to play something here from hand, they're I think actually in a pretty good spot because the Tasia has to discard 2 cards, and for the next turn they don't have anything anchored on the board, which is always pretty hard for Taja to come back from.
And
Or
a
it feels like it feels a bit like on Varro when you don't have a bureaucrat to sleep.
And the clutch Seringer there, nice stat placement as well on the single forest portion of the tumult, getting those 3 stats needed, clearing the Tasia, taking the advance, and we get a 1 for 1. The Seringer will go bye-bye as far as the reserve is concerned, opting to keep the unique and the seasoned Bravos Blade Dancer. But still a good purpose as far as that initial play on that day. And we'll see if that position that you mentioned for the Basir player is going to turn out good moving here into, I believe, day 4?
Into day 5.
Day
Um,
5, that's right.
and and this turn, the Basira can again just play the Aklut to draw a bunch and actually block on the companion side because the Taja is on mountain on that side.
Big stat block there. We'll see if the Basira ability comes out right away. We sure do. Let's draw some more.
And also to point out, the Taja is running Chiron instead of Ogun, which is, I think, the more common choice of rare slot. Maybe the Taja is running also 3 copies of Ogun, or just a unique Ogun, or maybe uniques that aren't plants and require to have boosts to have an ability.
It's fun seeing the pause there for the drawing of the cards. BGA is always weird with your selection of how you want to draw your cards. It'll give you 3 options to draw a card in that scenario, and you have to click them, and then you have to verify that you sure you wanna do this? That's probably why we saw that pause there. But we do see the rare Spindle Moon Bastion come out, getting those permanents out, being able to help out those anchored characters for Tasia. Not sure how much it's gonna help at this point, this far into the game, especially after hitting that mana eruption on that unique that they already played. Pretty beneficial to get rid of that and prevent so much anchoring happening. And at this point, all they can do really is compete on the hero side of the expedition.
And receive, of course, the big card advantage for the Basira at this point. I believe they'd rather have that amount. They'd rather have more cards in reserve because the Haven is just boosting those cards. But for sure, having a bunch of cards to be able to play out and have different choices in a turn than only like one or 2 cards is for sure always good to have.
Yeah, it's almost like we're watching your Kesha deck list here with the amount of cards that they have in hand, right? It's crazy to see
They're
Bravos.
missing a few cards. They're
Yeah.
missing like 16 cards in hand, and then it's there.
That's true. But it is crazy to see Bravos with this many cards in hand as
That's for
far
sure. Yeah.
as the setup is concerned. So yeah, nice occlude. I'm sure we'll be seeing that go for that type of occlude go for a lot on the marketplace. Only $600 or on eBay, whatever you want to do. Um, but we go into the next day here, all even, despite the card advantage for the Basira. We'll see how that can turn out, but we do see one of the newer Trial by Frost cards with Saskia. I actually like this one as far as just being able to give boosts of something being in the forest. Haven't seen it played a bunch yet from the viewing that I've
I
seen, but
believe it cost is just a bit too high to be played regularly.
yeah, I think one of the things that I liked about it was in the sealed format because obviously the more higher setted characters you have, the better in general. Haven't seen it that much in constructed, but fun to see people playing with it, at the very least, testing it out and see what's gonna go on here, and we will see
You
it.
see, the Pager has to commit their stats before the Basira actually gets to play. So Basira can now just pretty much react to whatever they want to. And yeah, the Tasia has to hope that they can somehow either block them or or just not go down.
Yeah, I'm trying to make it as best as possible, making the individual mountain become forest there on the companion side, but with that double haven coming out, even one cost cards like the little fire bunny there that you can that they want to meet in your area uh, is getting a lot of boosts, going up to 3 stats and 6 mana left for the Basir player. We'll see if we see that Chiron come out for the Tasia to boost things up here additionally to try to prevent the Basira from potentially taking a double advance, but with that, we'll see all the mana come out and wait to see what Basira has to play.
Yeah, I believe double advance is a bit isn't possible anymore. The stats are just too high this turn. But for sure, the next turns will get more and more painful for the Taja, being down this many cards. Just having one card in reserve, no anchors, and one card in hand at the moment.
Yeah, no anchors. They'll not be able to get the benefit of the rare spindle, getting an additional boost at noon at this point. Probably not the scenario that they wanted to put themselves, but honestly had to put whatever they could on the field to prevent the Basira from taking the double advance and winning the game here. So we'll see what the Basira has. Plenty of cards at hand. We may see some fancy tricks happen. We do see the one cost Fire Rabbit that I imagine will get the fleeting in order to get some boosts.
Oh, I'm surprised to actually see the boost because I think you most likely just want the Fire Rabbit as a cheap card on your reserve to get 2 boosts from Haven. But maybe they think it's not necessary and just will want to win with the Blade Dancer.
Seems like they have some level of confidence on what's gonna happen here. Maybe they miscalculated, but I guess we're about to find out because the Tasia has passed.
Yeah, I think just the Blade Dancer is enough to win the companion side. And then you have Blade Dancer and Chiron for next turn in the reserve. Oh, they're
Decided to
not
go Blade Dancer on
deciding
the
to
hero
go for
side.
that. Now I'm interested to maybe the Chiron as well is just enough to double advance this turn. I
They
haven't
had
counted that.
they haven't calculated the Basira hero ability yet, so they technically could get an additional boost off of the Chiron play. They will get a double boost here from the Havens, and we will see the Basira ability come out, and it will go on to the Blade Dancer, putting them at 7 across the board, and they throw the Chiron out. Is that gonna that's not gonna be enough to get them up on companion side, is it?
No, they
Interesting.
and with
Um,
this they would have actually blocked on the companion side and
yeah,
advanced on hero side. And
interesting.
Unite is just saying GG for I'm a bit confused at this point, but yeah, we're still in a tight game. I think the Sierra is still in a winning spot, just with the 8/8 Blade Dancer
Yeah,
and a billion cards in hand, or 7 to count.
yeah, a billion, that's approximate. I get the
Hmm.
idea. But, yeah, not quite sure what the play was there. They didn't necessarily have to use that Fire Rabbit's ability, like you mentioned earlier, but maybe they just miscalculated a little bit, and that's why they threw out the GG. But,
Yeah,
either way, looking at a pretty good spot here. We'll see if the Tasia decides to discard anything to the mana here in the morning. Wouldn't be surprised to see them not, especially if they got enough lower cost cards here and having limited resources. And we, in fact, do not see them mana here.
yeah. We still have the Persephone to change any 2 expeditions to Mount to Forest. And yeah,
Not sure how much it's going to matter with that big Blade Dancer waiting in the wings here, but we'll see if they're able to position themselves well enough to potentially at least get a one for one and try to take it to a tiebreaker arena.
and I believe the Sierra by now probably has mana'd all their removal spells since they just cost way too much at this point with the Spindle Bastion in play. And we see
Right.
the Bouncer to immediately get rid of the Persephone.
Yeah, one less resource for the Tasia definitely has to hurt, but we do see a unique Sun Wukong come out if you want to take a look at that.
Oh, and it seems like one of the mass anchoring uniques that whenever a character gains a boost, anchors a character, but it needs 2 boosts itself to be able to trigger the anchor effects.
So it
And
only has that one boost at the moment, so it would need one more, and I'm not sure if the Tasia has anything able to trigger that at this moment. Maybe a so, but that would leave them to just one card left.
Yeah. And the Wukong would get the 2 boosts when played from reserve, but it's sadly not an Wukong that gets or that loses feeding when played from reserve. I think that would be pretty strong for Wukong unique.
Definitely being able to anchor cards and just consistently be played for 3 costs, nuts. But we do see a aloe vera come out, 6 mana left here for the Basira player. It does not seem all that likely that we'll see the Tasia be able to come back. I don't know what they have in hand. Maybe it's a beauty sleep. I don't know. But not looking ideal. But we do that does mean we get to see a Basira take a win, so that's always exciting.
The beauty sleep at this point would surely help, but I don't know what you would want to hit. Hitting the Blade Dancer is just losing the next turn on tiebreaker, and
And the Basira is not gonna even give him the option to do that, and we in fact see a so. Throw it on
yeah,
the Sun Wukong, get some anchoring going on here. There we go. Anchored.
good call out.
But that does
The
leave a little room here.
the red that was played the previous turn doesn't quite win well. It wins as soon as the Basira boosts, the Basira hero boost is used. And yeah, we'll see the Blade Dancer be played on hero side. Basira ability probably be used on the red or the bouncer to gain the boost needed to advance on mountain, and that would take the game.
Realistically, didn't even need to double advance, at least block the Tasia, but they'll take the double advance anyway to assert their domination, as you see on BGA as quite common, just to show that you have so many different options that they could have beaten you with. But we do see the Basira win, so good game. It was a close one all the way through, although it did seem like the Basira was potentially going to always pull it out with that much available to them in hand. As we go on back, once again, anyone in the stream, thank you for joining. Thank you for chatting. Be sure to like and subscribe to this video or just AWOL in general. I am Blue. I am here with Runefolk, also known as Rune. We have our little social media stuff popping up on occasion down here, so be sure to follow us, subscribe to us on everything that's popping up. Rune's getting their YouTube set up here to have the same name so it doesn't confuse all you folks. But in the meantime, check out his Twitch, right?
Yeah, I'm not doing a lot on Twitch. I've since altered. I think I streamed once, but yeah, maybe in the future I'll start streaming there a bit more. And my dog is still confused and lost again, standing in front of me. Maybe I can get her back to not stare at me so much.
I got my dog actually outside of the door here. I can hear him leaning up against the door, waiting for me to come out. So as we go, we are here for the AWOL Online League here, Season 2, Monday Weekly, number 3. We have a big tournament, 128 out of 128 folks, and this is the round 2 of the Swiss. As we take a look to see what is available left for the games, potentially checking out some folks that we have not thrown up on the stream here. Let's
Table
see.
33 seems like 2 players I don't recognize.
Yeah, actually, I was looking at that area too. So let's go ahead and take a look at table 33 here. Get some new blood on the stream. We have Axiomo versus Hurricane, CCG, Spain, and France.
And we do see an Akesha with the Nilam set up already, and going up against a Taja with also a Muna Bastion set up as a permanent. Plays on both sides seem very limited, with both players having very few cards to be able to be played. And seeing the Beauty Sleep being played now from reserve to sleep the Hathor seems like there are very few options also in hand for the Taja to be played.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if the Kesha decides just to throw out that Alice and force the Tasia to try to do something with it and get adjacent at this point. It seems like that's the correct play, especially since they can't exhaust anymore with the Rhyme Frost, even though they would get the Withered Tree trigger off of it. But yeah, we'll see that Alice being played, and it doesn't look like Tasia has anything else, and we'll have to give up that advance.
I'm surprised the Alice was played on hero and companion side and not on hero side, because on hero side it would have blocked and advanced them and would have forced the Tager to play another card.
If they even had another card at that point, right? So
That's true, yeah.
either way, it is 1 for 1, and we do see the Akesha have the 2 advantage here on the Tumult. Not looking ideal for the Tasia, but we'll
I
see
believe
what can
neither
happen.
player has mana this turn.
So neither of
But
them
with
mana.
9
Okay.
mana and almost no cards, it does make a fair amount of sense. And the Tager at this point just playing cheap cards and basically after Ewing.
Yeah,
But
and we
Akesha doing the same.
yeah, it seems like the Kesha potentially had drawn both magical trainings here that last turn and was like, "Fine, I'll just keep them both and keep drawing, it's fine." And we see 2 draws there, a lot of low cost items being played, 1 card left for the Tasia, 2 cards in hand for the Kesha, and technically could play another magical training here. Probably not gonna play the Rhyme Frost unless they just wanted to self-exhaust to get a
They,
mana
they,
moth.
they, they probably want to get the mana moth by exhausting a magical training, because you won't play 2 from reserve and the mana moth is still a 2/2, so
Yeah,
still seems
definitely
like a
wouldn't
decent
hurt.
play.
And we see the moose come out, also known as Pamela in my mind, even though that's probably not how you pronounce it, but the moose is out.
Yeah, just threatening to take the hero side by just getting the mana moth on hero side as well.
Yeah, Keelan, I saw you were playing Skolopondre, and so I was hoping I might get to watch that, but no worries. Well, I wanted to see you lose to Saudi, but unfortunately we didn't get to see that. We're instead watching an Akesha play an exhaust build of some sort here. You'll have a chance to yell out your favorite word here potentially.
Oh, we see another unique Wukong in a different game this time, but this time not mass anchoring. It's just a lot of boost, it seems. 2 boosts on 2 different characters. That's very decent.
Yeah, it's always fun seeing those 3/3s as far as Sun Wukong come out and having some variations of effect. It's one of the cool things about Altered is we do see reoccurring things in uniques, but occasionally there's always something that surprises you. As we see a Belisinka come out here, and it's going to get that
Self-exhaust.
yeah, self-exhaust because we're going to get out what, Keelan guy? What are we
Moth.
going to what are we going to get? What are we going to get? I'll wait for the delay so that way we'll see it in chat here pretty soon, but we do see it, and we'll see the Acacia take it with that moth coming out. There it is.
Yeah.
Let's see. Glad we got to see a moth come out there. It's what the people yearn for, moth.
Moth
Um,
taking the win. The most exciting moth.
we still are here in Swiss round 2 of the AWOL season 2 Monday Weekly number 3. All the Europeans battling it out. I believe there are some North American folks that squeak their way in here that have the day off on Monday here, being able to play. Um, take a look to see how many games we have left. Few of them. Let's scroll all the way to the bottom, potentially hitting some people we haven't seen play before. Sure, table 45.
45. Okay. Yeah. I was looking at that earlier as well, because the profile pic of Nick Dibis is the same as of Nick that we watched
Oof.
earlier.
Oh boy, if we
And
were
we see
excited about moths before,
another. Yeah, there are gonna be a lot of moths now.
looks like they already been triggered here, at least for this time. But we do see the availability of them to pop up quite regularly. And we do see a unique come from the bottom of Faunus here. If you want to take a look at that,
Oh, that's an Aurora. Aurora? And it's from a hand, you might discard a spell to get a boost, and when played in general, if your hero companion is behind, if your hero expedition is behind, you can return a card from your hand, from your reserve to your hand.
And we do see another unique come out here, the Moon of Caregiver. From hand, you may put a card from your hand to reserve. If you do, you may return a spell from your reserve to your hand. And at dusk, you may put a card from your hand to reserve. If it's a spell, draw a card. Ooh, a lot of stuff there. A lot of words for these uniques these days. I feel like what
Also, a red and reserve.
oh, another red, if you wanna take a look at that one.
And that one is just when it has 2 boosts, when it goes to reserve, it returns a spell from reserve.
Nice. A lot of uniques there. It looks like we're getting the GG though. Bottom of fauna taking that. We will not see any more moths. It is a sad day. I was hoping for at least one more day for plenty of moths, but we do not get to see it. As we go back here, what do you feel like what unique or what character in its unique form usually has the most text to read or can have the most text to read? I,
Oh,
I have my opinion, but I'm curious on yours.
I think the ice machine is probably
Oh, really?
especially I've seen a ice machine where the half the card was just text.
Okay.
It was a
Actually,
German card though, and it seemed very funny with the amount of text.
okay, I haven't actually seen a lot of those uniques yet, so I'd be curious to check those out. The ones that I was thinking of immediately, at least from the first set, were jellyfish uniques that have like 4 different effects potentially that have a wall of text that I've had before, but
Oh, yeah.
doesn't matter because jellyfish, you can't play now. We'll see what we have left here. I think there's only 1 game left. I'm gonna pull it up here, table 21, we'll see where they're at. We do see a Sigismar versus a Finn potentially at the end of the game.
But with the Off You Go, it seems like there will be an oh, yeah, there will be another day.
At least one more day here. Been able to push that Sigismar off, at least for the time being, and get the single advance going even at this point.
Yeah, and Fen being 3 mana up into the Sigismar. Also, it's for sure a long game.
Yeah, we are in fact wrapping up here in the current round, going into the next as far as round 3 is concerned. Cole, I will yell directly into my microphone when the round starts, just for you. Um, Here we go. Did did the Sigismar just pass?
Yeah, it looks like that.
Looks like
I
they just didn't. They were not confident.
Yeah, not sure what's going on there, but
Did
it
we have
seems
anything in
like
the chat? Nothing in the chat. We didn't get the
the
usual
Fen is also
GG.
just passing and going into tiebreaker.
Okay. I'm thoroughly confused, but sure.
You're not the only one, yeah.
And they even what? I don't know.
But now both players have a bunch of cards again, and yeah, it will be an exciting tiebreaker. Not sure what went on there.
I'm not sure what happened that last day, but we're excited to see a tiebreaker. Always fun to see the new tumult with the little swirlies hanging around the water in the arena here. We will see not Nyla, the gifted conjurer, return some cards and put another card in reserve, which also does the same exact thing as far as sleight of hand. Ooh, a rare Ortis
Half
Cadets
valuing.
doing the good old fashioned to the other expedition. And they're
Oh,
just
when the game stopped to time.
okay, so maybe that's why they did it. They knew the time was coming up and they wanted to try to get to a tiebreaker. Either way, um, we'll see. I'm not sure is was Oh, Sybil was the Finn, so the Finn takes
Yeah,
that. They were both in negative time, but
but I think in
Pinreds,
tiebreaker, the Sigismund was looking better.
yeah, I think so as well, but because they were at -2 minutes, taking too much time on the board, and the Finn was only at -40 seconds, the Finn will take the win based off of the tiebreaker rules for BGA, gotta love it. I'm surprised Cole in the chat didn't mention the time left on there. Feels like he always mentions it, slacking on his duties the way Keelan guy was slacking on Moth earlier. But we are in round 3 of the AWOL Season 2, Monday Weekly, number 3. As we go into this round, we'll see what we have available here. I'm still okay trying to find some folks that may not have been on the stream before. We can get into
Sure.
round 4, looking at the top folks, but in the meantime, we could take a look at here. We do see Newbie Boy, the one you mentioned before, still undefeated at this point on table 1. Um, what else do we got? Folks that we have
If
not seen play.
if we wanna look at, some bottom tables, I'm looking at, table 54 with I think 2 players I've also never seen before,
Okay,
and
actually, I'm gonna overwrite myself. I just saw a table that I wanna take a look at.
sure,
Um, one of your teammates, Freeloader versus Caleb. Caleb, a big person over there in the
which
Altered
table?
community as well, always puts together some good decks. So I'm curious to watch this matchup, to be honest.
Which table is that?
That is table, I believe, 13. Let me take a look
Okay.
here. No, table 12. My bad. Table 12.
Oh, Caleb, not also uh, one of is a French streamer?
Yeah, that's what I was excited to
Oh, yeah.
see. I've seen them come up with some fun decks in general, and I know Freeloader likes to pull in the Cojo, so excited to
Oh, yeah.
watch this game.
I'm not
Ooh,
sure what kind of version of Cojo Freeloader is playing at the moment. I've heard the last that he's trying with, I believe, 9 one-drops,
mm.
but I'm not sure what the rest of the configuration is.
So we will see the Sigismar Cojo matchup coming up here, and Cole making excuses as far as not paying attention to the time in the chat. It's okay. You weren't doing your job. It's fine. Either way, we do see a tiny jail come out from Freeloader here in the reserve. Got hitting from the Bravo's Bastion as I burp. Um, and a unique Ozma from Caleb in the Sigismar, if you want to take a look at that.
Yeah, I've just almost got flashbacks on the game I played today against some Osmos. But this Osma at dusk, it draws a card if you have less than 8 mana ops, and when played from reserve. Um, Again, if you have less than 8 mana ops, you can discount the next bureaucrat you play this turn. But I don't expect the Sigma to play too many bureaucrats. But we've also already seen an Audis Attorney, so there's potential for another Audis Attorney or legates we play
Yeah,
from hand.
yeah, I feel like there's always an option for the attorneys or the legates. Seems like that it is a pretty common occurrence now in Sigismar these days. Started to get pretty popular at the end of season 1, I feel like middle of season 1 to end of season 1, and now seeing that carryover here into season 2, as we do have a Buddha turn for Freeloader on the Kojo. We'll see how they can take advantage of this and potentially try to get a 2-0.
Didn't we see the Tiny J that was resupplied off of the Haven last turn? Or in general, they're already on day 3, so they have been moving quite fast.
So I'll be curious to see if that tiny jail hits that Ozma to prevent more card draw, and I think we will. And we may see this as a little bit of a bait from Caleb in order to prevent a 2-0. They had to have known that that Ozma was probably going to get hit by that tiny jail. So we'll see what Caleb has available here in hand.
Yeah, probably just anything that will be able to tie the expeditions. So yeah, just going to probably going 1 for 1 this day. Or Freeloader may also still have a 1 cost from hand.
He did mention that he did have the potential of having a bunch of one costs, so we'll see if
Yeah,
that is the
I think
scenario
the
here.
available ones are Fire Rabbit, he's on Boshis, that would be very nice on the companion side, and yeah, I think just Salvagers and Tiny Agents are left
Yeah.
for
Tiny
what.
Gin obviously wouldn't be ideal here, but we'll see what we have, and we see a one of those bureaucrats that we mentioned coming out here, and I believe was that cost reduced because of the
Yeah,
Ozma? Yeah.
so they can still play one cost from hand now.
Yeah, a lot of good one costs available to Sigismars these days, we were mentioning before, as far as the good old-fashioned setup there. We may see the mobile armory pop up. Could see the good old-fashioned 1-2-2 pop up, but we do see that one cost that you mentioned as far as the Fire Rabbit being able to boost up the Chiron.
I'm kind of surprised that he decided to give the Chiron an extra boost with the Fire Rabbit, because I think you're just losing too much resources if the Chiron gets hit by the sabotage of the legate, and um, the likelihood of just the Sigisma having yeah, well, actually the Sigisma doesn't have anything with one mana to that has two stats, so you're pretty much always winning double expedition. But we see a hypothermia that makes the choices a bit harder to what to actually sleep, and what your opponent wants to sleep then afterwards.
Yeah, I guess we could have still seen the Ordish Trooper from the Sigismar on the companion side, right, to block the Buddha?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
But either way, the hypothermia is a big play here. We almost guaranteed to see the legate get slept, and this also prevents this also allow a potential on the sabotage, but it doesn't really matter because the correct play hitting that Chiron to prevent it from being sabotaged at this point.
and going into the next turn, the hero expedition is actually tied with three forest stats for both players.
Yep, we'll have that token come out, get that 3 stat set up. No more Buddha this time around though, and we do see the card advantage though pretty heftily for the Sigismar player at this point, but we'll see what Freeloader can do. And ooh, an
Oh,
immediate Anubis play, seeing a little bit more of a control styled Sigismar at this point with the hypothermias and the Anubis.
yeah, and just directly removing the Chiron to not even go to reserve. Very strong play.
Yeah, that'll be pretty big at this point, potentially once it goes to reserve and being able to be played again, especially with the Cojo having to go first next. They may end up even having to sacrifice their Buddha if they don't want to get rid of one of their characters.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but already setting up for potential one costs or cheap characters for the next turn, and just sleeping that attorney again or legate again to potentially just sabotage anything that goes into reserve.
Yeah, and also preventing that tiny gen from getting into reserve to potentially let it boost up and ramp up a little bit, right?
Yeah, and that's actually pretty nice play to play the red and followed by a physical training to draw another card and get another 1-0 position lead this turn.
Yeah, the Sigismar is doing a lot to try to control the Kojo at this point, but it seems like Freeloader on the Kojo is being able to work around it as best as possible while still getting some advances.
And sadly didn't flip the Tumult card on the right side to not get Mountain for the Tiny Gin this turn.
Won't have the mountain, and unfortunately, they do get sabotaged. That red does get sabotaged by the legate, but we'll see what they can do to try to keep on being the aggressor at this point, needing only 3 more advances to take the game.
Yeah, and the physical training also becomes a very nice card. to boost up the Tiny Djinn, draw another card, and just ramp the Tiny Djinn into the mana after at the end of the turn. The Anubis doesn't seem like the best play into the Tiny Djinn right now. So the Sigismund probably this turn has to play a bunch of cards from hand.
I guess it depends on what they wanna do. It almost feels like it would force Freeloader to pick the Tiny Gin to sacrifice so that they would have stats. I guess they could always just use the physical training so they would have stats regardless, right? So they wouldn't want to do it on the Tiny Gin, so they would definitely sacrifice the Buddha at this point. They do
Yeah.
get an additional draw. I was curious to see if we were going to see an avoidance of boosting up the Tiny Gin to potentially try to get it to reserve and be able to boost it with the Haven. But with the Anubis available, it didn't seem all that likely. So we'll see what the Sigismar has available.
And I believe the thought process also is now if the Anubis is played onto companion side and you sacrifice the Buddha, you're up 1 mana to play cards on the on the companion expedition. So against the 3 mana that the Sigismund would have left after the Anubis.
Definitely. We do see another bureaucrat come out for the Sigismar at this point. 5
Yeah,
mana
a lot
left,
of them in the list.
and a Pathfinder is another solidly statted character. Although it does not have anything in the forest, it doesn't quite matter, at least on that companion side.
Yeah, just blocking and winning on water is just all it does right now, and that's pretty solid.
Feels like Freeloader is happy enough here just to take the one for ones as much as possible, especially being up 2 spots on the tumult. As we
Yeah,
wait for the
in a
Sigismar
very,
play.
very good position at this point.
We'll wait to see what the Sigismar has left. Doesn't look like we're going to see an Anubis play, so we'll see what is available in hand. Potentially, they may just want to hold off because they would have multiple cards going into the reserve, and they'll have to get rid of some folks and not have as much advantage as far as card advantage is concerned.
Yeah, and currently the Anubis doesn't even limit the resources of the Cojo because they would just sacrifice the Buddha to not really lose material or to not really lose the materials to go to potentially not go into reserve. And yeah, we just do see the pass from the Sigismund.
Yep. Both players end up passing. Sigismore's happy to get an additional draw from the attorney, as well as taking an advance on the hero side of things. But we are still ahead here for the Kojo, not having enough with the 2 mana left to catch up on the hero side and potentially get a 2 advance.
Now the question for the Sigismund, do they want to keep the Anubis around just as a threat for the Coach to not be able to play anything significant on first play?
They do in fact decide to keep the Anubis. We'll see if it becomes a factor or not here. We will not see a Buddha to be able to use as a sacrificial token at this point, but I have to imagine the Kojo's going to try to avoid putting out anything too big here to get hit by the Anubis. But they may end up having to play that Pathfinder here at some point.
Yeah. And the Coach at this point could also just decide to pass and not mana anything because due to the tiny gen from last turn, they are even still in mana.
And that looks like what they decided to do. Ooh, Jack Frost hitting that
Yeah, we've
Pathfinder.
mentioned check that card earlier.
Yeah, it's fun to see this control-oriented version of Sigismar, but we do see a unique Tooth Fairy come out that just has an at dusk sabotage.
That's seems like a new unique to me from Freeloader side. I know he has a unique that sabotages when it leaves the expedition, but
Mhm.
this one sabotages at dusk, and the sabotage at when leaving an expedition into this Anubis looks a bit better, in my opinion.
We do see
But yeah,
that ra
maybe
that
this
ra
Tooth Fairy will still get value.
yeah, we do see that rallying call come out. I assume that's to potentially just get that additional boost and to combo off of that hypothermia that we saw Caleb on the Sigismar play earlier.
Yeah, seems like an interesting list with these 2 cards.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like these Sigismar players are potentially utilizing these cards that seemed like they were usable for Waru once upon a time, but using them on Sigismar to almost equal effect, as we do see a
Yeah.
unique from Freeloader come out, if you wanna take a look at that.
There's the second tooth fairy that I just mentioned. It's the from hand it gains a boost, and when it leaves the expedition, it sabotages.
Always fun to sabotage, probably my favorite mechanic in Altered, and that's the reason is because I mentioned that Bravos card unique that I had before, one of my favorites, and it's one of the first uniques that I ever got that has a similar effect of when I leave, you can sabotage, and it also has a from anywhere, put a card from your hand to reserve, and you can sabotage. As we see the excited dog prancing around Rune's feet at this point. We will
I
see
I think I
Freeloader try
gotta
to take it.
I'm trying to get her out of the room, so so she's not running around me.
You're good. We'll see Freeloader decide on what they wanna do here. We will see Removal come out with a 2 cost rare mana eruption. We'll see what it gets to hit, and I'm thinking it's just gonna be the Jack Frost. It is in fact the Jack Frost. We'll have to remove some mana in order to do it. Only 1 card left in hand to play. We'll see if the Sigismar is going to potentially take the bait here and use the Anubis to sacrifice. Might not be a bad spot.
Oh, wait, yeah, the mana eruption that turn definitely seems like an investment, but making the choices for the Sigisma very weird if they don't have another card that's good from hand to block or win either expedition.
Yeah. It almost feels good to use the Anubis in order to get rid of one of those uniques because it will be sacrificed, but it may not be the most ideal scenario, because you don't know which one they're going to try to remove. I mean, they could just play the Anubis to the companion zone and still be up, but it does look like you mentioned that Freeloader still has 1 mana left, so they could still play.
Oh, true. They still have one mana left. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's weird because of BGA and the visual, but they do still have 1 mana and a lot of 1 cost cards available, like you mentioned, so we'll see what happens, and they decide not to go with the Anubis play, and they're just gonna throw out the Attorney.
We just see a pass. So now comes the teamwork training, probably onto the companion side, to win one expedition back.
They'll take the individual expedition there. They don't get the draw out of the Attorney because they do advance, but they keep, Freeloader on the Cojo from getting adjacent and being 1 step closer from taking the game. We will see a sabotage happen on that Anubis because of the unique that we mentioned earlier.
Now with the resources, the Cojo looks to be in a very good spot again. Now also on a Buddha turn again, and if they win both expeditions this game, this day the game is over, and the Sigismar still has to win 3 expeditions instead.
Yeah, we'll be interested to see how that last day pans out based off of the decisions made by the Sigismar to go with the 2 cost play between the Attorney and the teamwork training, opposed to just using an Anubis. We are on a good setup here for their freeloader on the Kojo being able to pull out the Buddha this turn, and we will see the unique setup once again played from the reserve. Will not get the boost this time around, but could potentially sabotage at the end of the day.
It's also very painful sabotage to get rid of a tool that would have had very decent stats when played from the reserve.
Yeah,
But
always.
afterwards, we immediately see the Sarengar to win or to again be on a winning spot on the hero expedition.
Yeah, and plenty of mana left to play whatever's left in hand. We'll be curious to see what the Sigismar has available here to prevent the Cojo from taking a 2-0 because 3 stats ahead is nothing to laugh at. Sarengar showing up in a nice spot in the individual grass forest nature, if you're Cole, um, area of the tumult to put them ahead. We'll see what we have left here. A lot of low cost stuff. We have seen a lot of control. So we may be looking at some tiny jails, potentially some hypothermias. Not quite sure what we have in hand.
I think the playing the Sarengar here makes the Sigismund not really want to play too much onto the hero side because you probably don't want your opponent to get value out of the 3 forest stats next turn when played onto the hero side again.
We do see a rare common Ordnance Trooper coming out from the bottom Sigismar, and Freelitter is going to match and put a 2/2/2 red. We'll see a teamwork training come out.
An early teamwork training to me always seems spells they have either don't have anything else or they have another spell in hand like teamwork training or charge. But yeah, actually just removing the Tooth Fairy is already getting the expedition win.
Getting the expedition win and prevents the activation of the sabotage on the Tooth Fairy with nothing left in the
Yeah.
reserve. So able to prevent a 2-0 here, get a single advance themselves. Doesn't have to worry about small step giant leap at this point, and we'll go into a fairly close next day here. At least giving the Sigismar an option to try to 2-0, even though the Kojo with Freeloader is able to play 2 cards from the reserve at this point that will get the boost from the Haven.
Yeah, and the Sarengar with potential for forest stats just looks so good on the hero expedition at this point. So from a Sigismar side, you probably have to hope for another sabotage this turn, and
And
we
there it
do
is.
actually see that.
We do see a spy come out there.
This Sigismar list is actually running a lot of interaction with the Anubis, with Jack Frost, with teamwork trainings, with the with the legates, with the spies.
Yeah, I feel like that may be the direction we see a lot of Sigismars go into these days. It feels like it hasn't been doing all that horrible in general. And if you have the low cost interaction to mess with your opponent's resources that may or may not have the ability to draw or resupply or do whatever else, it may be ideal here. And we will see another interaction, just like you mentioned, with the tiny jail.
Yeah, and still being able to play both cards from reserve. So going up to 3/3/3 on either side.
They will still need to block the Kojo though, so it'll be dependent on what they have in hand here. And a mighty Jin rather is a good card to have stats wise on that individual
Yeah,
forest.
but at the moment the Mighty Jin is just going into tiebreaker if doesn't if he actually manages to get into tiebreaker with it.
Mhm. We will see a slow play come out from the Sigismar. Be curious to see what we have left here for the Kojo. 2 mana is enough to do a lot, potentially a rare mana eruption or some lower cost characters. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, the Cojo at the moment is running a lot of two-cost characters, so I believe there's still something on hand. And yeah, we do see the Chiron, and yeah, now the buy doesn't do anything in the hero side. It actually does. It actually wins them on water. So I still believe the Sigismar will play the buy from reserve.
Yeah, I think at that point, it was probably just a way to force the Sigismar to play that spy, and now we will see 2 cards available for freeloader in the reserve going into this tiebreaker that will be able to be activated off the Haven and potentially go ahead and get the draw from the Mighty Jin opposed to putting it into mana.
Yeah.
So not a bad spot to put yourself in, knowing that it was gonna go to a tiebreaker and forcing that spy to be used for the Sigismar. We do know there's a lot of interaction within the Sigismar setup here, so we may see removal on one of those cards being played from reserve, but we do in fact see the Sigmar deciding not to mono this round.
Yeah, I think with four cards and all the cards for Sigisma being fairly cheap, not monoing here is probably the best call. And we see more
More
sabotage or
interaction.
exhausting. Yeah,
Freeloader probably happy they got that Mighty Jin out there, and we are on a Buddha turn too, which does
yeah.
matter here in the tiebreaker. I did not remember that initially, but an additional 2/2/2 stats being thrown out there, and as we see the Jack Frost hitting another card in reserve.
Now this turn we might possibly see a charge setup or
Ooh,
even
physical
more
training.
interaction.
I hear
The early GG probably means that the Sigismund doesn't have anything left they can do into
yeah,
this.
too
And
many
yeah,
stats with the physical training coming up
but
clutch here.
another sabotage.
Another sabotage, another low cost. Honestly, an interesting game. I'm glad we got to watch it as far as seeing the control version of the Sigismar, but seeing Freeloader on the Cojo still able to overcome and take the W.
Yeah, and I think one of the better cards played this game was just the physical training to get in the mid game, just to get two more cards out of one card, to be able to not lose to all the sabotage.
Definitely. Thanks for everyone that is still watching the stream. We are currently in round 3 of the Swiss of the AWOL Season 2 Monday Weekly. Number 3, I am Blue. Feel free to check me out on Blue Oak TV on social media. I am with my co-commentator here, Runefolk. Doesn't do much streaming on Twitch, but you can still find him on Twitch at some point under
Yeah,
I'm_runefolk. It'll pop up here lower on the screen. This is mine. If he points down, he'll be able to see. You can see where his will pop up over the name. But yeah, round 3.
you're currently probably more likely to see me on Pandy Andy's channel than on my own channel, since I'm joining him to cast a bunch of his or Keelan's tournaments.
Gotcha. So that game did take a good amount of time. So a lot of the games did finish. Let's see what else we have going on here. Table 44 looks like it has a tiebreaker. Let's see if we can squeeze in there before it finishes. And we did, in fact, not be able to do that. It's already over. Let's see. Let's see. Let's
I think table
see.
3 is also it's an upper table, and I don't recognize either name.
All right. Table 3, upper table, not recognizing names. We have,
Oh, from Cyprus.
is that what that flag is? I didn't recognize the
Yeah.
flag.
You can also hover with your mouse over the flag.
And
I
it looks
didn't
like
know
it's already over.
the English pronunciation, but oh, yeah, that's true. I didn't know the English pronunciation, so I had to hover over
Yeah.
myself to see what it's called. Yeah.
Gotcha. So it is over, but still got to see a flag that I never saw before. Either
Yeah.
way, a lot of games are done. Looks like table 8 might be our last one.
Yeah.
We'll
Let's
go. We'll
unite
go.
who we've seen earlier.
We'll go to it. Take a look. See what we have. Both are adjacent. We may be looking at the end of the game here. We do see a traced come out. Don't see a lot of those these days. Running a
Seems like the
double.
Haven and the Sis were just replaced by Keelan cylinders.
Yeah, Keelan cylinders helping out with those boosts. Also, just getting the boost from anywhere for the rare Keelan cylinder. So, trying to make it work. I'd be curious to see
Looking
a
at the
full match with that.
discard of the Mm, of the trace, there's also a Daughter of Yggdrasil and a Vike that are new additions to the deck in my as far as I know. The
Hmm,
Daughter of Yggdrasil for sure being new.
interesting. Do have plenty of counters there for the Keelan cylinders for boosts. So, maybe exactly what Trace needs.
Yeah, and being ahead in cards pretty much. Being able to play out pretty much whatever they want. But that common salvager as 2 cost for resupply does seem a bit expensive, but still getting 1/1 stat out to just get stats in an expedition is still okay.
Yeah, they probably had to make some sacrifices in the rare slots in order to have those rare Keylon cylinders that we were mentioning, and we do see another
Like,
new card as far as the Machine in the Ice coming out.
putting putting that from hand in reserve makes me think that there probably is a Keelan Heater in hand to just be able to play it this turn as well, but
Either that or another
maybe there's
Vike,
another
right?
reason. Yeah, that's also true, yeah.
Gotta love being able to play that exhausted resupply. I'd also be curious to see if they have the other permanent that lets you stack up counters for exhausted cards. Maybe not. I don't know. They maybe just focusing on the Keylon cylinders, but we do see that Vike come out and another permanent for the Basira.
Yeah, but the permanent at the moment isn't doing too much. I I wouldn't be threatened by by a Keelan burst at this point in the game, and the Serengar also not really adding a lot of stats.
Interesting. Throwing out the rare Daughter of Yggdrasil, giving the Basira another card. Let's see if they ran into something they need. And doesn't look like that will be the case. Able to boost up here, get the advance, but with the double advance from the traced, that should be
Now
game unless
getting the
there's a 2
boosts
cost.
from the cylinders. I could
Cylinders.
imagine another intimidation, but I think any other 2 cost doesn't do it.
Chiron will come out, but that will not be enough. It'll get the advance, but not enough to block the double.
Yeah,
So fun game there as far as the traced is concerned, utilizing those rare Helon cylinders to activate some additional boosts.
and running the Daughter of Yggdrasil looked like an interesting list.
Obviously doing well enough to take the win there. Not quite. Was that a top end table? I believe it was table 8.
Yeah,
So
we were table 3. Oh yeah, table 8.
I don't know what it was. One of those higher up tables. Either way, we're ending the round 3 of the Swiss with that game. We're going into round 4 of the Swiss. Thank you once again for everyone that has been joining and chatting and doing all the good stuff and yelling out Moth. We are watching the AWOL season 2 Monday weekly number 3 as we pick our first game of round 4.
I actually have a game, and it's an upper table, table 4, Joe Banana against Sibylle.
All
And
right.
I know Joe Banana is also a German, and we've seen Sibylle earlier, I think, the last turn or so of a game.
Yeah, I believe so as well. So let's take a look at what we got here. Table 4, some undefeated folks going in here as we wait for the game art. Once again, thank you everyone that has joined. Feel free to subscribe to the AWOL channel. Last I checked before the stream started, we were at 69 subscribers. Nice. And um, we are looking at getting even closer to a nice little 100 subscribers. It's been fun doing these streams. We're going to try to get a lot more new folks in front of the cameras as we wait for the game art and I press refresh one more time. Eh, are we in game?
And we
We are in game.
Yeah, and we see an interesting matchup in my opinion. We see a Fen against a Basira. I'd favor this matchup to the Fen. Just getting a fleeting start in this matchup feels very nice. But in the later stages, when there's not that much fleeting stuff going on from the Fen, I think the matchup actually gets more even, or maybe even Basira favored. But still excited to see this one.
Yeah, definitely. And we do have that unique Lady of the Lake for the Basira that has some reserve effects if you want to read those off.
Yeah, from reserve, it gives fleeting to a character, and you might or you may discard a mana orb to give a boost to each of your characters. I think the charge effect, and of course the
Interesting.
support ability to make the next character you play lose fleeting. But I think that ability isn't used too often.
Yeah, it's interesting. I liked the idea of the Lady of the Lake in some fashion in previous decks. I think I was using it even in a Kesha list at one point, just to use its support effect in a fun way. Um, but obviously stopped using that. And we do see a spycraft come out to sabotage that Lady of the Lake. Don't see that many spycrafts being played these days.
Yeah, and it gets rid of the lady. Now the Basira has to play a card first, and probably the fan will answer with Will of the Wisp to just overstep the card, but just playing a Haven from hand. Yeah, from hand.
We'll see that rare Clute that has been a force to be reckoned with in Basira decklists, I feel like. Always getting
Also
those
looks like a
additional
very
boosts.
strong card next turn.
Yeah, and being able to exhaust things out, especially against a Finn player with that additional resupply that we often see.
Now the fan is pretty much forced to make the first play, and Basira can answer to it. But we also see the unique Yongsu in reserve that from hand, if you if you have three more than three base sets of 0, you can roll a die to either resupply or draw a card. And from anywhere, it also resupplies.
Interesting. Having even more resupply available to a Finn is definitely a choice. I wonder if we see any effects as being able to utilize all those cards in reserve, like an Anansi or something. But we do see another unique come out from the Basira, this time in the form of an Ozma that just is going to straight up resupply from hand, and then also has a reserve effect to be able to draw a card if you have two or more boosted characters.
And yeah, just playing the Ozma over the Inkasa to get a 1-0 lead this early in the game feels very nice.
Some decisions that need to be made here for both players as far as the reserve. You do see a card returned for the Finn based off of the Inkcaster effect, and we'll go ahead and get rid of that sleight of hand. What do you think you would keep here if you were the Basira?
Oh, for sure, keeping the Aklut and probably rather the Sarenga, preferring the cheaper cost from reserve since it also draws a card.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, but I wasn't sure if they would prioritize the Ozma because it is a unique. I see people do that just because sometimes it feels like. As we see Runefolk lowering the desk here, finally going to stop standing up, has enough exercise. We do see the
Yeah.
Ozma go away, and we will see a resupply into another unique for the Finn, a 1/1 Esmeralda. Don't see a lot of those.
Oh, I hope that the desk going down wasn't too loud.
No, you're fine. It's
Must
fine. People with like earbuds in, they'll live. Either way, we do have a 1/1 Esmeralda that if you have 3 or more base statistics of 0 among characters you control, resupply. So, 1
That's an
cost resupply.
interesting. Yeah, that's a very interesting Esmeralda. But I think the requirement is still very hard. But now with the Will of the Wisp and reserve, it, it for sure is possible. But I think in general, this kind of condition is still very hard for Fen to pull off.
Yeah, definitely you would have to rely on some characters that have a lot of 0 stats. Maybe they're running something that would work better, like a rare Anansi or something, but don't see a lot of those either, so
Maybe they are also just running the rare Serengars to have another card with 2 zeros.
yeah, definitely. So we'll see what's going to happen here moving forward, see if that's going to be utilized. I feel like since it's in the deck, it probably has some use, but first play going over to the Basira, who is currently 1 up on the Tumult.
Yeah. Probably seeing the Upload being played now to force the Fen to play from hand and discard a bunch. But instead, we just see a bouncer to sabotage something specific.
And that makes sense too, to be able to utilize the Seringer from reserve and be able to get an additional card draw, well, instead of just being able to play the one occlude, assuming they didn't have a one cost in hand. They're just going to go ahead and hit that Esmeralda. They said, I'm not going to even give you the opportunity.
Yeah, but the Fen still has the support effects to maybe potentially play something big from hand, but I don't think Fen does play two big costs from hand.
Yeah, I think the biggest stuff you see from Finn usually are from uniques if they want to run something slightly bigger that does removal. But other than that, not too much. But we'll see what they have. A lot of options, as is per usual, with a Finn, also known as a crowbar player. I almost forgot that's what I was calling them now. Um, but we do see a unique pop out here, allowing for another resupply. If you want to read that one off.
We've seen this one before. It's where played from hand. If you have 3 0 stats, you roll a die to either draw or resupply, and from anywhere it resupplies.
Yeah. That's that one we saw in reserve earlier that got returned by the
If you want to
Inkcaster, I believe.
call, if you want to call fan players crowbar players instead, the German translation for crowbar is even better. It's
Mm.
in German called a fan and feedback.
I like it. See,
Yeah.
now we have another thing to call the hero. It's just perfect for everyone all around. I'm just personally a fan because it seems like he's rocking out in the back there. One of the best little buddies that we have as far as heroes are concerned. Definitely an S tier setup that we have for them. I think the only other S tier additional companion overall, what's my other favorite one? Crowbar is up there. Who else? Trying to think. Going through my head. Definitely no one in Axiom. Sorry. The dog's cute, but it's not top tier. Um, Bravos, Buddha's okay, but definitely not top tier. Oh, that's what I was thinking of. Blotch. I'm a big fan of Blotch,
Oh
as far
yeah.
as Navinka and Blotch. I think that's probably one of the better as far as just overall. It's a dragon and it's all colorful. Top tier, top tier.
Yeah. And I was speculating when when one of the Tribal Frostplane mats came out, if the motive on it was Blotch or one of the new dragons that spawned from the Icebounds.
Right. Yeah, sorry, Buddha not top tier. Buddha is so Buddha is the definition of the the average for the companions overall. They have their specific name, but I'm just going to call them companions so everyone understands. So Buddha is always consistent, right? Like it is the definition of it is not bottom tier, it is not top tier. Buddha is the standard for all the companions, and so it can't be higher or lower. Solid companion, just not top tier. Um, so that's my definition for it. If you disagree, that's fine. It's a fun little guy there, but as far as the actual tier S, top tier, I would have to put Crowbar and Blotch in that area. All cute, all cute
To me, of
related.
course, to me, of course, Buddha is top tier.
Oh,
I'm
okay,
of course a Cojo player myself, so Buddha is for me
that's
also
fair.
top tier,
That's
and it's
fair.
support, of course.
Yeah, that's fair. I like I play Kojo myself, but I feel like if you have like like the character that defines like what a companion is, Buddha's definitely there, but that doesn't make it top tier. It just it's right there in the middle, right there. But yeah, all cute characters as far as companions are like tier A, like highly like slightly above, but everyone else is variation of otherwise. Either way, let's get back into the actual game. We're here to talk about some altered. I'm sure y'all enjoyed that initial conversation, but at least we can play some see what we have going here. Asira's still ahead, it looks like, up one spot on the tumult. We finally get to see that Will o' the Wisp being played.
Yeah, and the at the start of the turn, the fan decided to use the support ability and play the Will of the Wisp, that the Aklut this turn doesn't get too much value. And I think the Zero at the moment is making the choices for the fan very weird, to not really being able to play the Yongsu from reserve, and pretty much forces them to play cards from hand.
Definitely. And unfortunately, we had someone unsubscribe because they don't agree with my Buddha top not being top tiered. But you have to live with it, and sometimes the truth hurts. Either way, we do see another Will o' the Wisp come out, stacking up those water stats, all six of them this time
I
around.
think this play is still not good into the card I expected Chiron, but we see a Fire Rabbit instead, giving it fleeting and boosting up the bouncer more.
Yep, getting that bouncer up to block the Finn there, at least in the companion zone. We'll see if they have a 1 cost. Does not look like they do. And Basir will take the 1-0 advance here, which definitely feels good with already being ahead at this point,
Yeah.
especially with what they have going on here. They're going to have to take advantage as much as possible with the constant resources that the Finn will have available to them.
And this doesn't look like one of the 10 builds that tries to play magic trainings over and over again with cards that bounce them or loop them back to your hand with uniques or sleight of hands or Nialas. So just decides to discard the magic training this turn.
Yeah, can you imagine if Lyra had the rare version of magical training at 1-2? That'd be
Yep,
nuts.
that would be very nice.
Anyway, always nice to see Finn come back around similar to the beginning of season 1. We saw a surge of Navenka players at the end of season 1 and not so many Finns. So it's curious to see what people can do with the hero this time around as we finally get to see that Aklute come out.
Yeah, and seeing a triple exhaust, forcing the fan to play from hand, and still having that tiny Jin on reserve to just get 3 splits in mountain on the hero side as well.
Yeah,
And
Clute
this will be
the major counter to Finn at this point, right? Just you thought you were getting a lot of stuff with resupply, too bad. It's all
yeah.
exhausted. Too bad we couldn't see any moths. That would've been fun.
Yeah, but there would have with the Nilam there would also be only be spawned
Yeah,
one moth,
yeah.
sadly.
But
Uh,
at least when you think exhaust, you think moth, right? Is that not what everyone thinks?
for me not. I'm more playing the Aklu than the moths.
Okay. Well, now word association. Anytime I interview Keelan guy, I'm gonna say exhaust, and he's immediately gonna yell out moth. I have to imagine. So
Yeah, maybe.
we'll see what the Finn has in hand at this point, as they cannot play anything from reserve at the moment.
And I think we see Keelan having another take on companions that are top tier, and he said more. I only agree with more when it's 3 more at the same time.
Yeah, I hate to be the bearer. I didn't want to point it out. I saw it earlier, but I'm sorry, Keelan, but Ma is actually below mid tier. It's probably one of the lower tier companions. I hate to be the bearer of bad news to that, but it actually is. Not just because of what it is, but I'm just not a big fan of Ma as a companion. So take what you will. We do see some cards being reverted to the hand with the Nyala finally being able to play something from reserve at this point by getting that little back and forth. But we'll see what we can do.
Niala being a good Niala being a good counter to the Occlude, that's just now you're able to play 2 cards from you're on the one hand playing you're able to return a card from your reserve with Hathor, and you also return a card with Niala to be able to play it from hand.
Yeah, a lot of fun interactions now that we have some more cards in general that are able to return some things, put stuff into reserve, exhaust them, all that we have available, and it's making altered that much more fun in my opinion. as we do see a sabotage hitting that Hathor, not allowing it to return any cards to the hand.
Yeah, just setting up for the next turn with 2 cards in reserve and saying, and just trading expeditions, being up to 2 and making the pen discard a card at the end of the turn feels good at this point for the Basira.
It does indeed, especially being ahead at this point. Yes, Keelan guy, I'm sorry. I don't make the rules. I mean, I do, but that's not the point. Either way, we do see a cloth cocoon come out, potentially hitting that occlute, I have to imagine, but they go for the permanent instead, trying to avoid those additional boosts.
Yeah, hitting the Occlude here doesn't really do anything because the bouncer is still in play, and you can't outstack the bouncer anyway. So just for the next turns, getting rid of the Haven, also solid choice. Also,
Yep,
is more efficient with your mana this turn.
definitely. And now the Basira will not be able to utilize that Haven from the reserve cards at this point, and still gets an advance. Only two more to go to potentially take this game and move on. I don't was it, were these undefeated folks when we looked at them
I
last?
think they were. I think they are table 3 or 4.
Nice. So
I can check it again.
yeah, good to see Basira doing well. We've seen quite a few successful Basiras today for the AWOL tournament. Weekly number 3 on a Monday. Glad to have everyone that is here joining us, whether you be from EU or NA. We have a stack tournament and we get to see a sleight of hand being played. As we come down here, wait for the Basira to play. Probably something from reserve, maybe from hand, not quite sure. But either way, plenty in reserve for the Finn player. Ooh, and we will see a Sabotage come out with the Haven Bouncer. See what they're going to
Checking
hit.
at least Joe is I haven't found the spill, but at least Joe is at this point undefeated.
Nice. We'll see the Basira be able to hit the Nyala for the Sabotage at this point.
I don't remember what the fan earlier returned to hand with the Niala.
I'm not
Maybe
quite
you do?
sure either. I could probably look at the breakdown here. Sleight of hand. Puts on card and
Uh,
player
I
reserve.
Oh, that's actually a new card. I thought we already knew all the cards in play for the fan now, but that's Nancy for sure looks as a new play, as a new card.
Decides to switch it up on us. We do see the common Anansi come out, get 3 boosts, putting it up to 555. I was curious to see if we were going to see a rare Anansi to have those triple zero stats, but we in fact do not. And we do get
The
some help.
Nancy currently isn't too useful since it's getting blocked by playing one Haven Bouncer together with the boost of Basira.
Yeah, we do get some help from the chat. It was a Twinkle Twinkle that was returned last
Yeah,
turn.
I also realized that as I saw the Twinkle Twinkle in reserve.
Um, We will see that Will the Wisp come out, making things difficult there, as you mentioned. And we will still get an advance out of the Basira, putting them adjacent. I guess the Finn could just decide to sleep the Jin to prevent ramp if they wanted to, even though it wouldn't really help them prevent the advance. But
I I'd probably prefer sleeping the okay, sleeping the yeah, that also makes sense. I thought about sleeping the bouncer to limit the amount of plays that the Basira can do next turn,
mhm,
but also having that Will of the Wisp stick around for the next turn and force the Basira to play on water is also a good play.
it will put the Basira just one away from taking this game. The Finn is 3 away at this point, so not looking ideal. And as is the scenario with the good old Finn and Crowbar players, you have to mana. Now only 3 cards to work with as far as trying to not let the Basir take away this game.
Yep, both players very low on cards, so I believe the Basira not to mana, but they actually still mana. And the cards that the fan has available right now don't look too promising, but with the sleight of hand being able to return the off you go and potentially play it twice together with the Anansi still looks like a play that's possible, and also depending on what the last card in hand is for the fan.
Good game nonetheless. We do see a unique come out from the Basira if you want to take a look at that one.
And that one, you may put a card from your hand in reserve to sabotage, and if you control a landmark, you may resupply, but the Haven already got removed, so only getting to sabotage. And decides to sabotage the off you go that had the potential to be played twice this turn.
We do see a Garrett come out into the reserve. It's one of the alternate art versions that you get from the promos. If you haven't gotten them yet, you should try them out. They look pretty cool, and it's gives you a little bit more to search for than just the standard promo heroes. And we won't see any unique Garricks anytime soon, but at least you can look at the common one right here.
Yeah, and but the common one still gets fleeting, but only gains boosts for fleeting.
Mhm.
I kind of thought that it was also not getting fleeting at all, but yeah, it still does.
And unfortunately, still gets the fleeting, but still decent. And we will see it come out here, stacking up on that hero side. Not sure what the Finn has in hand, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to do anything here. And it does not look like it will be. We do see a 2 roll out of the
Which fac-
Trickster.
which faction does get the out of faction for Blizzard?
For Blizzard, is it not Axiom?
Could be. I'm actually not sure.
Yeah, I'm not quite too sure either. It feels like Axiom got a lot of the out of faction removals from the setup, but maybe I'm wrong. Either way, maybe someone in chat will be able to correct us. We have a lot of people in chat. We wanna thank you for joining. This is our highest viewed stream at this point, over 30 viewers at one point, so really appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe to AWOL. Wanna see more things popping up here on screen. You see your name and whatnot. It was Axiom, I was right. Good guess by me. So let's, go back here. We are in round 4 of the Swiss for the AWOL Weekly, number 3 for Wednesday. A lot of good games, a lot of good different heroes at this point that we've gotten to see, and realistically pretty close. So
This game also took a while, and
it did take quite a bit, and we're down to maybe 1 or 2 more games. 3, it looks like.
three it seems, yeah.
So let's take a look. I believe we watched at least one person on table 29. So let's see if we can go farther down here. Table 45. Did we watch either of them?
I think we've watched one of them at least, yeah.
Okay, so let's look at table 41.
Sure.
41 it is. This will probably be our last searching for bottom tables setup, but as we watch the undefeated folks get going here, and we get to see an Itzadi. I'm gonna switch it over so everyone can watch it. Possibly watching Itzadi lose, but it's okay. We get to see a Demeter play out here for the Itzadi, and we have a Hive version of the Trace. Interesting.
Oh yeah, that's actually interesting.
It looks like it's almost a utilizing Trace instead of Sierra, in the similar to what a Sierra deck would be here.
Yeah, and just trying to get the card advantage with the traceability instead of the tokens that the Sierra provides.
Honestly, not a bad idea, especially with the amount of quick effects you can remove from reserve with that Sierra version of the deck, right?
Yeah, and this rare mechanical training looks very good at this point, triggering both both the landmarks and just getting a bunch of resupplies and brass bucks. But this game is already one for the Trace player, so they're just playing for fun at this point with themselves. And
It's constantly playing effects. We'll see another quick effect come out here too from the Jin as well, I have to imagine. A lot of bugs. Oh, look, another gerbil. But we'll see the Inari get the quick effect. I don't know why I call it a gerbil, but it's obviously not that. Either way, quick effects happening, bugs everywhere. Trace gonna take the W. Unfortunate for the Saudi player, but fun to see it nonetheless. And oh, look, it's a unique Sakurabu out here too, potentially trying to do that candy bar type of thing.
yeah, I will. We might have. We earlier already saw another unique Sakurabra, but I think that was another player.
Saudi player not too happy, saying that this is boring, but we will see the Trace take the W with a Sierra version of the deck, which is pretty cool to see.
Yeah, for sure.
As we
Or it's already
wrap
fun
up,
to see different takes on different decks or for different heroes.
yeah, we saw that earlier Trace that had the Daughter of Yggdrasil out as well. So a lot of different variations, getting to see what people are testing out on the day. We still have two more games left. Let's go ahead and take a look at the one that has the least percentage, even though we have seen them play. At least one of them play already. Table 29. And despite the lower percentage, it looks like it's pretty close at the end here, as we see an Afanis versus a Cojo player.
And maybe we just see a small step this turn.
Could very well see a small step. Kojo's going to go ahead and go first, deciding on the mana. They do have two Havens out, so if we do not see this small step, we may see the Kojo able to take the 2-0 here, especially on a Buddha turn.
Yeah, but the looking at the reserve from the Cojo, I would assume that the Icebound Peak was resupplied by one of the Havens, and I think usually Kojos run the Icebound Peak in rare over the common version, but I
Yeah.
think that's not they're not too sure on that yet. So
Does feel nice for 2 costs, so I can't disagree with you there. And yeah, Skolo, I mentioned you earlier as one of the originators for the Itzadi folks. Doesn't look like it's been going well, but which hurts my heart, but, we'll get there. Yeah, stay strong. Stay strong for all Itzadi players. We appreciate you. Either way, going into the game here, we do see a draw, so it potentially looks like the Afanis is digging for that small step.
yeah, it's surprising to me that the Afanas would play the 2 mana magical training before playing a character, but maybe they're actually just hoping to hit the small step. But I think it's still safer to just give the boost to a character. At
Feels like it
least,
would have been as far as, like, ideal play is concerned, like you mentioned, but we'll see what's gonna happen.
oh, I wanted to say that the Icebound Peak this turn seems like waste of 3 mana because you can't activate its effect now. With 2 cards left in hand, you probably still can't, but with the Arlecano Milk, you could actually get characters, give characters fleeting that are played from hand.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see if the Kojo has something else here to potentially play that 3rd character, and sure enough, we do see a rare Ozma to be able to draw and potentially run into another character to activate that Icebound Peak.
But for now, they don't have the conditions met for the Ozma. They have no character other than Ozma that's boosted. So
Correct.
2 characters missing. Yeah.
Unfortunate, but what can you do? It's always fun trying to figure out, like, the different ways to activate the fleeting. Sometime I caught one person off guard when I only had one counter on Icebound Peak and able to use, the Fire Rabbit to with no milk out kinda thing to trick him and able to get my dragon out, so always fun to see what the possibilities are as you learn all the cards for Trial by Frost, and we do see another Ozma come out, but no mana left for the Kojo at this point.
I believe the Also, the Baba Yaga from hand is just enough. Oh, no, but it's not enough to block.
So
So,
we may be looking at a tiebreaker, but instead we see the helping
oh,
hand.
yes, the helping hand, yeah. That is definitely enough.
Yeah, so despite not necessarily doing the ideal play of getting a card out to get some boosts, still able to get enough there and lock down the Cojo player.
Yeah. And I believe with the amount of players as spectators, this is most likely the last round, and we get into round 5.
I believe so as well. This should get us into round five, where we're getting down to the top tippity top of undefeated players. Assuming everything goes as planned, we will have two undefeated players with a full 128, I believe, and we'll see the good old fashioned BGA decide who is number one, who is number two. But we'll just say they're co-champions at this point. Both of you get a gold medal. As we switch back to big faces. Hi, everyone. Once again, you are watching the Altered Weekly Online League, also known as AWOL Season 2, Monday, weekly number 3. I am Blue. You can catch me at Blue Oak TV. Pretty much on YouTube is where I'd prefer you go. It'll occasionally pop up down here. And Rune's going to talk about all the things that he wants you to follow him on here as I switch back to the Swiss.
You can follow me basically pretty much only on Twitch. At I'm Runefolk, or just follow Penny Andy. You're more likely to see me on his channel than on my own, because I'm just joining him to cast the Elon bi-weeklies or AQZ events if I'm the one casting with him. But the last time I think Freeloader joined him.
Indeed, we are going into round 5 of the Swiss for anyone that is interested. We currently have how many undefeated people? 8, it looks like?
8, yes. So the top 4 tables are all undefeated. And I think 2 of them we haven't seen any players yet. Table 1 and table 4 with Techie Fryer and Yo, and Newbie Boy and Organic.
You have a preference there? We'll go to either one.
Um, of course, I like the Akesha player. So table
Alright,
4 with Newbie
table
Boy.
4 it is. Casters are always right, so we are going to choose what y'all are gonna watch. Table 4 as we move in here. It's a Ysmir matchup, and sure enough, we have everyone's favorite new token, Illusion, the good old-fashioned moth, already being played by the Aphanis, as we see Kesha versus Aphanis. Top 8 at this point, Newbie Boy versus Florganic, I believe, and we'll see what we got going here.
And having looked at the list of Newbie Boy before, this feels to me like a very Afanas like playstyle with a lot of cheap characters and actually not too many spells. I'm trying to get a list up on the second screen right now, so I can maybe tell a bit more about it. But actually got a lot of good and also 5-1 finishes in the last couple of tournaments. So probably right now one of the best Akesha players.
Wait, you're telling me that the category Akesh is not the best one? I thought that's what you played at. Come on.
Um, yeah, it's for sure the best, and it's also the most liked. So your opponent will love you if you play the category and celebration days. Definitely haven't had any opponents that told me that my deck is boring or anything. But this deck of Newbie Boy actually doesn't run any permanents at all. So not even the Neelam permanent that creates moths. So not too much moth spamming from the Kesha side, but maybe from the Afana side.
Yeah, we did see the double play of Moth to a Flame there from the Aphanis, whereas we go one for one once again on the second day there. And we're all even on the tumult at this point. So we'll see how this proceeds forward. Although I'm pretty sure that you don't really mind when people call your Akesha deck boring because realistically they can't see the smile behind your face as you have 50 cards in your hand, right? Like just like
Yeah.
ah. Yeah, indeed, moth, Keelan guy. You do see a moth in play. There's 2 of them, you missed the first one. So, as we go into day 3 here.
We again, like in game one, we spectated see a rare spindle harvester in Afanas.
Yeah, it seems like that we've seen that this is the second time we've seen that at this point, right?
Yeah,
Um, so interesting to see how people are adjusting potentially to the idea that if they do not have one of those unique spindle harvesters that are so popular, and just using the rare at this point to have an additional anchored character and potentially using different uniques as we see different cards here. A field reinforcements have not seen that one yet coming out of an Aphanis.
yeah. Well, also an interesting new addition. Um, I've also played around with it a bit, but I in Lindeef, but I didn't like it too much because you're on Lindeef trying to focus on one expedition and you're rarely drawn on expeditions or behind. So I don't get too much value out of the card, but it's definitely a nice card to have. It's a spell and a character at the same time, so you're getting a 2/2 with the draw. So that's very nice for Athanas.
Definitely, as we see another one for one, both players at this point have a good amount of resources available to them. So we'll see how that goes. And I'll be curious to see if the Akesha player decides to go ahead and use that quick effect of the moose to exhaust a card or not. But we do see the first play coming from the Aphanis, so they can play whatever they want if it potentially gets exhausted.
I'm not too sure how this Akesha list wants to win into Athanas consistently. I believe to not have it be a flip who wins on going first with a small step, you kind of somehow have to get an advantage. And looking at the deck list, I believe the way that Akesha wants to get a lead is probably by playing Isetok. I see there are 2 Isetoks in the list, so maybe that's one of the cards to get an advantage.
And we do see that rare of the version of Tooth Fairy that we mentioned before, how it is typically a popular setup, especially if you're playing Lindive or something to that effect. So we do see it in the Akesha deck list this time around as far as a potential additional after you.
Yeah, in Akesha, the additional after you also definitely makes sense. Um, just starting a bit longer for like easy talks or blizzards or whatever the deck plays to that it wants to stall for.
Indeed, as we see the standard category and Mage Dancer coming out for the Aphanis, getting some boosts up. Mage Dancer itself, I feel like, is one of those cards that between the common, the rare, and even the out of faction, it's a widely used card as far as 3 of them in deck lists where they're included for one reason or another, compared to some characters where you only see one the version of the common, the version of the rare, or something to that effect, right? So, fun card.
Yeah, and the deck choice in this one is also interesting because I think one of the choices that um, Afanas always have to make is if you want rare Mage Dancer or rare Baba Yaga, and this one seems to have chosen the common versions of both of these cards and prefer other cards as their rare choice.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that comes in, if it's just the rare spindle harvesters or if there's something else rare that we wouldn't typically get to see in the rare version that hasn't popped up quite yet, but we'll keep an eye on it as we see a Beauty Sleep hit that anchored character and cause another one for one.
Yeah, I'm surprised that the moth was played on the companion side, but yeah, maybe they had a plan behind it, and yeah.
Pretty even game thus far. Just seems like a back and forth, seeing which. Yeah, there you go, Moth Keelan guy, you got it. Um, seeing which Ysmir hero is able to take the advantage that they may need in order to potentially small step for the win. We're coming down to that point where A clutch 2-0 can put you in a position to take the game.
For sure, yeah. And at this point, for having seen some Afanas mirror matchups, this isn't too much the too many cards that either of the players has in hand. I've for sure at this point seen Afanas players that have way more cards available to them, but we've seen neither player play a unique yet, so not too much resources that could be gathered that way. And yeah, just curious to see how this one turns out and who how advantages will be generated this turn or this game.
Yeah, a lot of still a decent amount of resources in hand for each player, so should be interesting to see what happens here. I wouldn't be surprised to see an early Moth to a Flame being played. It's a great card for 2 costs from the reserve, or we may even see the Mage Dancer come out early as well to potentially try to give an additional boost to it. So but we will start with the Akesha, potentially the After You, or maybe just throwing out that good old-fashioned Tooth Fairy to do a pseudo After You before playing the actual card, or just put another Tooth Fairy from hand and sabotage that Mage Dancer that might have been played.
Yeah, and sabotaging the Mage Dancer here feels nice because you deny a possible Mage Dancer into helping hand to replay the Mage Dancer on the second day. But
We will
I'm curious to see what other options the Akesha has now for this turn.
potentially could go with another 1 cost or just use that hero ability to do an After You at this point to see an additional card from the Faunus' hand is what we will see. And a Rhyme Frost, it's gonna hit that Beauty Sleep to prevent any type of interaction there and give that Moth an additional boost.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice. I would have thought they did the Tooth Fairy to not be able to have another After You effect. But yeah,
I
I still don't know what the Akasha could have in hand. Maybe a Off You Go or a Blizzard, but the Blizzard doesn't get too much value here.
yeah. I think the choice to hit the Beauty Sleep with the Rhyme Frost may be from a position of the Aphanis that they don't have many characters left in hand, and they feel like if they got hit with one of them, that they may potentially lose more than they want to, or want to get a 2-0 where they wouldn't be able to pass that, and we maybe just be looking at spells available to them at this point. But who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, and the Akasha now just playing out the Tooth Fairy, so a removal would or a Off You Go from hand from the Akasha would now lead to a win on either side. And if they manage to actually tie 2 times more and the Akasha is first when they're tied and on game point pretty much, the Akasha would have the small step advantage. So somehow the Afanas has to get a lead and maybe win that way.
Yep. So see the Faunus piloted by Florganic here in this is round 5 at this point, or round 4? Yeah,
Round 5.
round 5 at this point of the Altered Weekly Online League. We are going to see one of these players head into the final round undefeated and potentially take the whole thing, as we see a Rhyme Frost just being played for the sake of the boost, it seems like.
Yeah. And probably doesn't have much other options left in hand.
And a unique coming out from the Kesha. You want to take a look at that?
Yeah, that one, the sacrifice, it has a when sacrifice ability, but this deck doesn't play any sacrifices, and therefore only the on-play effect is relevant in this one. And this returns a card from your hand to your from your reserve to your hand.
So that Beauty Sleep will go to the hand at this point. The question is, does the Akesha have another 1 cost to potentially take the companion side and then able to run the Beauty Sleep to go ahead and sleep that Spindle Harvester and take the whole thing? And it does not look like that will be the case, and they'll just take the 1 for 1 this time around.
Yeah. And now for next turn, they probably keep the Beauty Sleep and the Stargazer to get another use of the Beauty Sleep. And they are well set up to maybe get another 1 for 1 and win with Small Step.
Yeah, the main thing at this point is, will that Moth allow the Aphanis to potentially take the 2-0 this day, or will there be enough available for the Akesha to get that 1 for 1 that you're talking about and run into that small step if they have not already drawn it?
Yeah, and the Afanas right now looks to be a bit ahead in card advantage, but well, actually, with the cards in reserve, the card advantage isn't really substantial.
Indeed, but we do see the Aphanis deciding not to mana this time around as we wait for the Akesha to make their decision. Thinking real hard, planning out that mana curve, and decides not to mana themselves, so we're stuck at 7 mana apiece as we go into potentially the second to last, maybe final day. We get a 2-0. Who knows?
Yeah,
Starting off strong with a 1 cost.
rather starting off weak with a 1-0-0.
Yeah, but you gotta love the small plays in general, right? Just making
Yeah,
your opponent play first is always nice. But yeah, quite weak Spindle Harvesters. All those Muna characters, other than the Hydra, start quite off pretty weak. I guess Hydra starts off pretty weak themselves, right? They're 0 statted. Gross, right? But we will see that unique come out to return the Beauty Sleep that will be threatening the Aphanis on any character that they make too big at this point.
an
And speaking of beauty
immediate
sleep,
beauty
we
sleep.
see a beauty sleep of their own.
Yeah, being able to potentially sleep two characters played by the Kesha with a beauty sleep seems strong.
And Off You Go comes into play as well. So a lot of interactables here for the Akesha player. Question is do they have another character to play to go along with that beauty sleep?
Yeah, and even if they do, the Akesha having having a character themselves plus the Off You Go plus the beauty sleep still seems like they would be able to tie this game.
And we do see a unique Flamel coming out for the Aphanis that lets you put a card from your hand in reserve. If you do, it gains 1 boost, and then it also has the reserve effect to return a spell from your reserve to your hand.
But
Either
sadly,
way,
here
yeah,
it's
go ahead.
a reserve from reserve effect to bounce the beauty sleep, so they can't immediately get back the beauty sleep.
We will see a pass from the Aphanis, so they would be able to advance here with the Spindle, potentially. Now we'll see if that Akesha does have a character to be able to take the advance and potentially set themselves up for a small step win here on the next day.
And
Any character at all, just play it. Anything, one of them. No, all right.
it might be that they actually don't have it. Oh, they do.
They in fact do. And they will take it. On the companion side, now we see with the 1 for 1 advance who can small step and giant leap their way to victory potentially on this next day. They both only have 1 card in hand, so it very well could be that neither of them have it. So
Yeah,
interesting to see if that ends up happening, especially with 3 slept characters at the end of that day.
I believe it were only two slept characters and one anchored one.
Okay, well, you don't
But
have to correct
still a
me.
lot of characters, still a lot of characters sticking around for this final, maybe final turn.
Correct me again,
Uh,
Rune, and you're fired. Okay. Anyway, 2 slept characters and 1 anchored character as we go into potentially the final day here. Wondering if we get to see someone small stepping and giant leaping all over the tumult. Maybe not, but either way, assuming a small step doesn't happen, who do you think has the advantage moving into this day?
I'd probably say the advantage currently is on the Akasha side because we know they have a removal left in reserve. And for the Avanas, we don't know that their cards, and the Akasha in general has more cards, even though the Avanas has 2 characters in his expeditions. But yeah, I think it could still go Avanas way.
Definitely. I think having that board priority feels good, but like you mentioned, knowing that there's removal available to the Akesha does feel quite good, and they are taking their time in deciding if they're going to mana here, and they decide to do it. So, should be interesting to see what happens here. And the Aphanis decides to agree with them, now only having 2 cards to play.
Oh yeah, maybe they just have the small step and don't care about manoing.
And the Kesha going to play that beauty sleep immediately, trying to avoid sabotage, and it doesn't matter because hello, small step, as you mentioned.
Yeah,
Kesha, despite having the first turn priority, does not have the small step of their own, as we probably could have told based on how long they decided to mana or not. And Aphanis did it pretty quickly and takes the game. Congratulations to Florganic taking that one, going to round of 6 undefeated and having the opportunity to take this tournament, which is in fact the Altered Weekly Online League AWOL Season 2, Monday Weekly number 3. We are in round 5 of the Swiss at this point. As we go back to everything, I'm going to switch back to big faces so you don't have to see all that stuff. And we
the other
decide on
the
another
other
tournament.
3 undefeated games are already over, and I'm a bit sad to see that on table 2, Freeloader lost to Tempete, and yeah, but that made my shout out on round 1 to watch him play even better.
At least we got him in and we didn't jinx him with the stream. He, in
Yeah,
fact, lost off stream, so it is not our fault, Freeloader. Either
yeah,
way, we do have some games still ongoing at this point that we can take a look at. Potentially just some folks that we may not have had on stream yet. We'll take a look at here. Looking at table 9. Neuro is a name I recognize, and I don't believe he's been on stream yet. Why not? Some good players here with only one loss at the moment. So let's take a look. Let's refresh.
I was
Yeah.
actually also looking at table 9 with all of the marbles and Nura.
Yep. 2 familiar faces within AWOL at this point. We have Neuro piling the Cojo, and we have all of the marbles on the Lindaway slash Lindive, if you want to pronounce it correctly. And everyone watching the game, I can see here in the spectator mode. And at this point, it looks like we have doesn't look like Neuro has enough to catch up, does he? Or does he have another boost? He
I
doesn't.
think it's over, yeah. But it's the third unique Sakuraba that we see this tournament.
Yeah, a lot of unique Sakurabus going around, and we do have a unique Alice as well for all of the marbles on on the Ysmir, and it's a sacrifice-based Alice, if you want to read that off.
Yet you may sacrifice, and if you do, you may discard a character with hand cost 3 or less. That's a very nice fact.
Yeah, especially since you're going to prioritize that sacrificing and being able to remove folks. But with that one for one, we'll see a Lindaway taking the win here, and I believe all of the marbles only has one loss, so still pretty cool to see one do quite this well.
Yeah.
So we switch back here. We'll probably get to watch the end of another game before we get into round 6. We are currently in round 5 of the Swiss. We will have 4 undefeated folks going into round 6. So we'll have the fun BGA deciding who takes it all type of thing. But, I mean, with everything going so consistent to round 128, Simon, I don't know if you're watching, but maybe we need to make this a 7 round Swiss and make everyone stay for another half hour. I don't know. Either way. Um, Let's see what we have available left. One,
Maybe also a
two.
poll on the Discord for 7 rounds for Mondays might be a choice. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Who
Simon's
knows?
listening.
Yeah, it's may be able to see if people want that or if they have enough with 3 hours of altered played in a row. I don't know. Either
Yeah.
way, let's see what we have available here. I'm probably just gonna pick anything that has the lowest percentage. It looks like it's 71% at this point. Not that BJ is correct a lot of the time. So table 8 is my favorite number. I'm gonna go to table 8.
Okay.
Um, and we see that Trace that we got to watch before playing up against a Afanis. Let me
Oh,
switch
true.
it over here for everyone to look.
I wasn't sure if we've seen Matata play today, but yeah, true, true. We've actually seen that setup with double keel on cylinder already.
Yeah, 3 hours probably is the sweet spot healing guy, but we'll see if people care that much as far as being co-champions and arbitrarily becoming second place over first place. I don't think people honestly care that much, but who knows? I could be wrong. Maybe people want the glory of being the top person in 128. Let's see here. We are adjacent, so we're probably looking at only at one more day to see if the Trace can pull out the victory with the Keylon cylinder setup, which is quite fun. And we do see so that does make sense having the daughter out and being able to just put it from hand to reserve using the trace effect, right?
Yeah. Think that's the reason why it's in the deck, because just because it's a overstated 3 cost from reserve. And I'm surprised to actually not see the small step here from the Afana side.
Yeah, interesting that they don't see that. We do see the immediate play of the Machine in the Ice, which will be able to be played on the hero side here. Yeah, Simon,
I
we
think
were
it's
talking about
able to be played on both sides, right?
oh, yeah, sorry, either expedition in general. Simon, we were just mentioning in general, since Monday seems to have 128 consistently, if we wanted to put a poll up to see if folks wanted to play 7 rounds instead of 6. But Keelan guys mentioning that 3 hours might be the sweet spot, which I tend to agree with, but maybe everyone else does not. Who knows? Either way, we're looking at both of these folks here potentially trying to just take the one for one. And then as soon as I say that, Traced, piloted by Matata, is going to be like, you know what? I'm contesting. I'm going to beat out this mage dancer. I'm not the type to dance.
Yeah, and it seems I think I would have also preferred just playing for the safe 1 for 1. Um, and not be not not let the Afanas maybe still win. But that third Keylon cylinder looks pretty nice here, because if you manage to get to a tiebreaker, you get a new Keylon cylinder that already has two counters on it.
So with all with the beauty sleeps being played, it seems like Aphanos is definitely playing to win right now, potentially having another one cost spell in hand. Because if they have to play a tiebreaker here with two slept characters for the trace, it does not look ideal. So we'll see what happens after these Keylon cylinders boost up that Vike.
Yeah, so the Afanas pretty much would have to have another, I think, helping hand. Yeah,
Yeah. And it looks like the Matata was playing around that idea. He figured he had it or he didn't, and just decided to split up the boosts a little bit because if he had it, it wouldn't have mattered how many boosts he put on the Vike. So
yeah,
with that, we will see the Faunus take it. Either way, fun seeing Matata pilot that different version of the Trace and seeing him do realistically quite well.
yeah.
I believe that's probably the last game potentially of round 5. Let's take a look. Nope, we're still going. We still have something still being played here.
No, but for me, it's already on
Is it?
round 6.
Okay,
Yeah,
let me refresh my setup here. And we are in round 6. Once again, everyone, as we go into the finals matchup here, we are watching the Altered Weekly Online League AWOL Season 2, Monday Weekly number 3, round 6 of the Swiss incoming, watching some undefeated players play each other. Thank you for joining and watching the stream. Let's see, we have 4 undefeated players at this point. Do we wanna pick the ones that we have not seen play, or I don't think we've watched Yo or Easy Lopez play at this point if we
Yeah,
wanted to watch
I
that.
think, yeah, I think I would go prefer table 2.
Alright, so we will watch table 2. If we have time to get into table 1 after this one, we will. Don't wanna deprive everyone of watching these undefeated players take on each other. And I'm having board game arena issues, and should be good now. Loading game art as is per usual. We'll take this time
Yeah.
once again to introduce ourselves. I am Blue. You can catch me at Blue Oak TV, specifically on YouTube if you want to support me. It'll pop up down here. And then my co-caster Rune is on Twitch. What is your Twitch, Rune?
On Twitch, I'm Runefolk, or maybe also just Pandy Andy because I'm there more often than on my own channel. So yeah.
Perfect. Let's go ahead and refresh here to see if we're done with the game art. Still not quite done. Probably just means they're taking their time picking their mana.
Yeah, I think the game art is only loading while they're choosing heroes, and
Mm.
you could technically already spectate while they're choosing mana, but I'm not sure.
Either
Yeah.
way,
Oh,
we're in here now. Let's switch over.
it might actually also be choosing mana because now after loading, we do immediately see that they already chose their mana.
Yeah. And we will see a Tasia versus an Aphanis. So two of the characters that we kind of predicted would do well in the tournament showing up here in the finals. Not too surprising, but still fun to see them play each other. And at least it's not a mirror matchup, even though we started off with one, right? So a nice 1-2 there for the Tasia player beating out the Baba Yaga.
Yeah, and it's surprising to me that Yo doesn't respect the potential of Spinel into Ogun here and just loses double expedition on the first day.
Indeed. I can let Simon answer that, Philip, but it is not allowed. You have to stay on the same deck.
I'm really surprised that Yo went for the common Baba Yaga to match the Spinel Harvester because I, in my opinion, when you see your opponent play a Spinel on turn 1, you would expect a Ogun or the spell that boosts 2 characters to be played afterwards that you can get the resupply on the next day.
Yeah, or even a Chiron, right? So,
Yeah, but Karen isn't played that frequently. I think
yeah,
the Ogun is preferred.
definitely. Still interesting to see more common Baba Yagas, especially at the top end of play. Feel like it was almost guaranteed that we see a lot of rares for Baba Yaga, but with the introduction of some new cards or even the rare Mage Dancer, I guess that's the reason why we're seeing the common Baba Yaga, like you mentioned before, as far as deciding which rares are you going to keep in your deck.
Yeah. And I've heard players experiment with for sure different rares in Afanas. I believe my team especially tried a bit of Joyride in their Afanas lists, but I haven't actually seen them play that ever. So they are likely to have dropped that early on in testing. But maybe we see at some point in set 2 people play Joyride and Afanas.
And we do see the Mono Druid use the support ability in order to anchor that Spindle Harvester once again and get a boost from the Ogun to make it that much bigger and keep on utilizing it for future days.
Yeah, I think that it's good news for the Avanas that there isn't a aloe vera coming down on day 2 as well, next to the Spindle Harvester. But this also looks quite threatening. Just the one cost with the ability to resupply on at noon.
Yeah, definitely, especially with for the Tasia being able to go up 2-0 on that first day and maintaining a lead on the Aphanis, I feel like has to be a high priority for anyone to prevent them from potentially setting up for a small step giant leap play later on in the game.
Yeah, and the Tager can actually just focus on one expedition to win at this point. But of course, making the game faster and getting double expeditions feels also always nice, but more realistic is just advancing once each day now.
Yeah. You can occasionally test out to see if you can pull off that double advance, but if you're feeling at any point that you can't do it, just go ahead and default, take that one for one, especially against an Aphanis, and while being 2 up on the tumult at this point. Little room for
And
error, not too much, but a little bit.
I think the next breaking point for players this turn is whoever gets their first unique. I would believe that both players are probably playing the top tier uniques for each of their decks. For Yo, I know that he played for sure the at dusk spindles, but I've seen that he also switched to some reds as uniques. And for Isa Lopez, I don't know which uniques they play, but I would imagine some of the mass anchoring uniques that Taja has.
Yeah, definitely. I almost like the introduction of the new cards as far as Trial by Frost because it's opening up things a little bit more as far as variations of uniques and not necessarily guaranteeing which unique they're going to play, right? Or at least what type of unique that they're going to play within their deck list, right? We've seen a lot of variation and some folks trying some new stuff out. But I have to agree with you here where we're probably looking at some stuff we could semi predict, especially on the top end of the Swiss for the finals at this point with undefeated players.
Yeah, for Taja, I don't know what other options than anchoring uniques you'd have to make the deck work. For Avanas, I think there are two lines you could also go. I think they're not as consistent yet as the um, bouncing cards, but I believe cards that create moth tokens when you play spells or that resupply when you play a spell are also for sure a fun way to play Avanas.
Definitely. It's also pretty cool to see the use of snoozer shroom these days on the Moona side of things, being able to do a kind of anchoring by using a sleep when you feel like you can already win an expedition potentially, and also just having solid stats as a 2/2 if you're trying to win in a forest expedition or even a water only setup. So fun to watch. We're going into things here with Tasia still ahead as we see another common Baba Yaga being played. And there's that
Okay.
first unique that you were talking about.
Hmm.
Let's take a
But
look
it's
at what it
actually not a
does.
mass anchoring one. It's just from hand when you control two boosted characters, you may have character gain anchored. So this lets him re-anchor the spindle for a second time, or yeah, now the spindle is anchored for a third time. And yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that
it's
is a lot of stats already.
yeah, keeping that spindle harvester out for quite a bit since the very beginning of the game at this point, taking advantage of those Ogun boosts, and now taking advantage of two separate instances of being able to re-anchor it between the Moon Druid and that unique Lyra Thespian. Forget what all those Lyra cards are named occasionally, but it's fine. Either way, going into the Aphanis now, all the mana away from the Tasia player. We'll see if the Aphanis has anything that's going to be able to stop another 2-0 here.
Yeah, it definitely seems very hard, but I believe just a off you go or beauty sleep would already prevent the 2-0 because the Taja is in water and forest and would get blocked by a boost on the Baba Yaga, but that's still going down one expedition and not being able to progress.
The fact that it's taken them this long to do it makes me think that they may not even have it, or maybe they're trying to think of something else. And we do see that beauty sleep come out. Maybe they were trying to think if they were going to play that mage dancer before playing the beauty sleep, but it does not seem like that is the case. We will see the boost on the Baba Yaga. Maybe another one cost spell being played, or maybe just throwing the mage dancer out there, even though it's going to give it fleeting. Not quite sure.
Yeah, we would believe that just the Mage Dancer is played now or nothing, because I think playing a card now from hand just makes you discard two, and you don't really want that. Except it's a magical training, maybe you still play that.
So we will see what the Faunus decides to do here. There are options. Either way, I'm sure it does not feel good going one for one, but they're going to have to do it here. Lose the Mage Dancer, but they don't have to discard anything from reserve at this point. And if
And
you're the
depending
Tasia
on
at this
what,
point, you're feeling pretty good, right?
yeah, pretty much. And you're still depending a bit on what you're now resupplying or drawing with with your spindle and natural draw. But you're still in a very good spot, being 2 up still and having a 4/3/3 anchored character.
And that Lyra Thespian in the rare does feel quite good getting those additional boosts because it's an auto lock once you play it first with Tasia for 2 mana. Having a 5/5/5/5, I'll take that. I'll take it.
Yeah. Hmm. And I like the unique Thespian as well. It's it's just stats and manas just increased by 1, but it has a different effect. It seems very fun to me. I also have a similar one, but it gives boost instead of anchored.
Hmm.
So it's more like the common, like the rare Thespian, but just one stat increased in everything.
We'll see that So come out in the resupply. So we'll be able to give a character a boost. It is not the rare So. Not sure if there's many Tasias that run rare So opposed to just the boosts taking from the one cost. So fun card though.
I
I like it a lot in sealed in particular.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they would particularly run so. I believe it's just an after you and for your uniques, that it might be an additional trigger for boosting cards.
Mhm.
But other than that, I'm not seeing the potential of so yet. But maybe you just don't have strong enough common slots that so is still one of the better options.
Yeah, I could see that. We do see the Spindle Moon Bastion come out, which makes me think that we're potentially looking at seeing that Spindle Harvester get anchored yet again, but which will be fun to see it just hang out and not constantly have to ever go to the reserve, right? But only one card left in hand for the Tasia. Plenty of cards left for the Aphanis. And we'll see what's going to come out here. And ooh, a Conjuring Seal. Interesting.
Just trying to get resources to somehow be able to deal with this spindle, probably. With both spindles, the Harvester and the Bastion, because the Bastion still seems to be quite a bit of a problem at this point.
Yeah, especially the idea that the Tasia hasn't had to run into and off you go yet, and the idea of being able to get that Muna Bastion down before that's the case has to feel pretty good with forcing the Aphanis to have to use a little bit extra mana to have to remove some of these anchored characters. And the fact that they played the Conjuring Seal right then makes me think that they didn't really have very many answers, at least for this day.
Yeah, and playing Baba Yaga here now also is going down 1. It blocks the sleeping your own character here? Or what's the plan?
They may just not have anything to prevent a 2-0, and they are gonna look to sleep the Thespian, potentially?
They can't sleep the Thespian, they
Oh, that's
have to
right.
sleep their own character.
Yeah, maybe this was a misclick, they didn't think about the Muna Bastion.
Yeah, Ori in chat, the yeah. Um, maybe that wasn't planned.
Yeah, I don't think Yo factored in the Bastion.
Seems to be.
Yeah, you can't cancel it. That's unfortunate.
Yeah. And that on the final table.
Looks like he may have known it and was just trying to play the Beauty Sleep just to play a spell?
But I don't I don't know what that would have done for you if you have another one cost spell from hand. You it would have to be a helping hand
Yeah,
to get the one for one, and your Baba Yaga otherwise would have done pretty much the same.
yeah. So maybe that's what we were looking at, another helping hand, a helping hand in
Yeah,
order to boost up the Studious Disciple. Either way, that may have been a scenario of BGA making things quite unfortunate here in the final table. Um, but either way, we're moving forward. We get a 2-0 from the Tasia player. Honestly, looking pretty rough for Yo on the Afanis at this point in one of the final tables. We'll see if post this game, if it's going to end after this day and we're going to be able to catch the other undefeated table. But if not, we'll go over some other ones and do a little review for everyone that's still watching.
yeah. And that spindle still is still around in the companion side. It's just by now insult to injury, being played on turn one and still around.
Yeah, didn't even have to go to
Seems to be
reserve
a very
yet.
good card.
We will see both players decide the mana, and we are going into things. Ooh, a nut. Oh my god, that has to feel good hitting a thespian off of the resupply.
Yeah.
Especially with the Muna Bastion out, you have to feel like that even with an off you go, you're using most of your mana, and for 2 costs, getting a 6/6/6 while discarding the is pretty nuts.
I'm not sure why they use the so like that. Probably they have would still spend the 5 mana with the cards they play from hand, but I
Yeah.
think it would otherwise also be a nice after you.
Yeah, I agree with you, so it's probably not factored into their mana curve here. Play another Thespian, and
Yeah.
they potentially have 3 mana to work with in hand to help wrap things up here. So we'll see what Yo has, but it is not looking all that great with that many things statted up and having that Spindle Moon of Bastion out.
And that's for sure a lot of stats just with the two thespians.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate that last day that if Yo had a play or a line to potentially only go 1 for 1, that this is how it's gonna end. But either way, I feel like Easy Lopez did quite well this game and was taking advantage and gaining the lead. So it may have ended up the same way. Either way, maybe not, but still a good game. They're going to throw out that Oliveira out just for good measure on the hero side, force Yo to try to cover both sides. And we'll see a very expensive beauty sleep at this point, but still not going to be quite enough to stop both sides here, despite getting some good boosts on the Mage Dancer.
Yeah.
Get the GG from Easy Lopez as we wrap up this round 6 game here of 2 undefeated players. So we will see Easy Lopez at least as a co-champion for this AWOL weekly Wednesday, and number 3 at this point. If we can go back really quick to catch any other of the finals events, maybe not, I don't know.
But it seems to be still going on the table one.
All right, so we'll should be able to maybe catch the end of table 1 of round 6 here.
And it's an Afanas mirror, so as called in the beginning, Afanas and Taja made it through to the top tables.
And we
And only
started
those.
off with an Afanis mirror. We're going to end with one of the Afanis mirrors. We have Florganic versus French name, also named Tempted, is what I'm going to call him. But if anyone wants to tell me how to pronounce it correctly, go ahead. I still probably won't do it correctly. I apologize. I apologize for me being American. Either way, we do have a fairly big Mage Dancer already out for the top of Faunus here, and
Yeah,
both of
the
them are the same on the Tumult. Is an interesting spot to look at.
the game seems pretty much tied. Same resources, same expeditions.
So we may come
So
down to a scenario of a small step. Who gets to play it first, right?
yeah, could be the case. And at the moment, it would be Florganic.
Although, interestingly, we haven't really seen that many small step plays. I feel like in this scenario, we've seen folks just not have it.
Yeah, I think they mostly focused on actually getting to the point where they can small step and had to mana their small step for having enough resources to keep up.
Either way, we'll see what the top of faunus here with Florganic is able to do, trying to make a decision of playing potentially that expensive off you go or whatever they have in hand. I have to imagine we're going to see some hand cards first, but we do know the bottom of faunus only has two cards available to them as they cannot play that beauty sleep from the reserve.
Yeah, pretty much the same for the upper Faunus. You pretty much don't want to use your off you go from reserve, but oh, true, this Flamel isn't returning your cards from hand, so it's just locking up the hero expedition.
Putting a lot of stats there. The Flamel in question lets you return a spell from your reserve to your hand from reserve, and if you put a card from your hand in reserve, you do gain a boost. Does not look like they would want to show too much of in their hand to get an additional boost. Plenty of stats already on the hero side, and maybe just looking at Forganic wanting to run into that small step if they don't already have it. The tension is high as we wait here in the final undefeated match of round 6. Whoever takes this one will join Easy Lopez as the two undefeated folks throughout this tournament, and we'll have BGA decide who's actually first, but we'll just both call them co-champions, and we'll post their deck lists, or rather Simon will do it, and everyone will be able to copy them. Anyway, except for the uniques, because those are in fact what? Unique. We do see a off you go pop up here, and that will hit that mage dancer.
That makes me think that the Afanas still has a card in hand to be able to boost the Studious Disciple up.
But it looks like the top of faunus here is not going to risk it and gonna off you go themselves and
Oh,
hit something. But with that, that's gonna prevent the one for one.
yeah, but they now do have to find off the top one of their small steps or play the last turn out.
Big play by the bottom of faunus here, potentially reading that Florganic on the top of faunus had that off you go removal, and knowing that they could still block them on the hero side with that unique and the stat line with the 225.
Yeah, and they get to return the Beauty Sleep at first, and now have two characters left in reserve, which is a pretty nice setup for them. And
No
the
moths.
choices,
Keylon
choice
guy,
for
you're
the
good.
upper
Good.
upper Fanas here to have to discard their Mage Dancer because they want to be able to return the off you go with the Flamel. Also, it seems a bit painful because you actually like the one cost of the Mage Dancer to be played this turn.
Yeah. I'd be interested to know if the top of Faunus here had that small step in hand, and they're feeling kind of disappointed that they didn't get that one for one. May need to go back on the replay real quick and see if they had it waiting for them, and they just got duped by the odd stat line from this Flamel at 225, stopping them in
Yeah,
water.
that's actually the perfect card for last turn.
Yeah. Prime example of being baited into thinking like, oh, there's no way they can do it. I have to remove this one, and he still can't catch up. And then all of a sudden, 3 cost Flamel that has 5 water stat. This is where open decks would be helpful, but you can't always do that in online events. So
It's kind of open. You can pretty much spectate the last games of your opponent, but it still takes extra steps to do that.
Yeah.
And the
Not
Dill
n
Fairy, he looks very nice.
yeah, not everyone's Keylon guy and looks at all of their opponents while they're playing actively. The active spy of the altered community. We do see a sabotage come out, hit that Flamel by the Tooth Fairy, see if that reduces the options for the bottom of Faunus or if we just see a small step.
I would believe that they still have to play it out.
Yeah, it seems like if they had it, they would have played it already. So they would have had to have drawn it, and so we're just gonna see that Mage Dancer come out and set things up for a final day here.
I believe this Mage Dancer that was just played immediately get off you go, even if it costs 4 mana, but we actually don't see the immediate off you go now.
You're gonna opt to return it to hand and have that 2 cost, potentially having another 1 cost card in hand, which would be the best curve for Florganic and Tapafaunus, despite being dealt a rough setup here in this final day, thinking that they were gonna go 1 for 1 in the previous one. But plenty of mana for the bottom of Faunus rather, and we'll see if they can do anything with it.
Yeah, you probably have to hope for cards that just let you stall. Maybe I think the ideal card now is Helping Hand to remove the feeding and get a second play of the Mage Dancer when it's off you go, or maybe just a Magical Training to draw into characters.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like a magical training would feel nice here, potentially, but you do know that the other Faunus has that off you go in hand being ready to be played. But we will see another one cost Beauty Sleep hitting the Flamel. So the question comes now, does the bottom of Faunus have a character left in the hand at all?
Yeah,
Because with that off you go, they need to pull out something here. They have 7 mana to play it, and it has to be bigger than the 2/2/2 over there, or they're just gonna throw out the Beauty Sleep, so they must not have anything else. And we'll see if Florganic on
yeah,
the top what has it, and he doesn't.
yeah.
Oh, he saved it. Surprise.
Yeah,
Top
probably
card.
waited to see if the opponent played another Studious Disciple. But I would also could also think that the last card in hand is the Small Step Giant Leap, but you can't be sure.
Can't be sure, but we can be sure if we do some spying like Keylon guy did at some point. We may do that here after as we go back to things. That was the final undefeated matchup of round 6
And
of the
Organic in chat actually does say the last card in hand was Leap,
okay,
was the Giant Leap. So yeah.
okay, so that makes sense. So, we do see that in the chat. That was the final undefeated matchup of the AWOL Season 2, Monday Weekly number 3. Appreciate everyone that has been joining along with us at this point. As we go back, we may be able to catch the end of some other games, or that could just have been one of the last ones. It looks like there's still some active games going on that we can just pop into before we wrap things up. Do you have any do you let's table 3?
Only yeah, I think table 3 is the only left.
All right, table 3. We'll take a look at it real quick. And we see a bunch of tokens out for the Sigmar versus an Aphanis, both of them adjacent. We may be looking at either a Sigismar Faunus win or maybe a tiebreaker. Hopefully, we get into a tiebreaker. That'd be nice. And interestingly enough, we see a Frog Prince come out despite having 0 stats in Mountain, which makes me think we may be seeing a charge come into play here.
Yeah, for sure. Or it's just blocking the Baba Yaga on Forest and still winning on the companion side. That's also just
Definitely.
possible.
So we'll see what we got. Afon is still 1 card left to play here. They are going to need to play something at least on one of the expeditions to try to advance. And the Sigmar does have have 1 card of their own, so looking at the advantage of the Sigmar at this point. And interestingly, they decide to boost on the right side to just say, oh, I guess they can play the helping hand once again to boost some more. So we'll see.
And this way they can decide afterwards which expedition they want to buff up.
Yeah. Assuming that the Sigismar can't play a character in both sides, which technically Sigismar could, but
I believe the
probably
charge right now, it would be winning.
yeah. So we'll see. Interestingly enough, we haven't talked about them that much as far as teams are concerned. We do have AJT coming out here in the finals,
Yeah.
not the finals rather, but one of the top tables, and we have a Sandman hitting the table, going to just pretty much guarantee that hero side and shouldn't be enough for the helping hand to boost up the companion side, and Sigismar is going to take it.
Yeah. Hmm. So that should also be the last game of the tournament.
I believe so. We'll let this ride out here real quick, and then we can head on back to verify. And then we can give everyone a breakdown of the final results. There we go. We get the little magical noise from EGA as we switch back to big faces. Once again, hi everyone. We are wrapping up of round 6 of the Swiss of the full event for the AWOL Season 2 Monday Weekly number 3, and that, in fact, was the last game. So let me pull up the screen here so we can see the results. Slightly end it down. There we go. Pull it up here. And yeah, as we see here, we have the BGA arbitrarily, not arbitrarily. There's a way that they do it. They give the tempted or tempted is what I'll call them. The first place with Easy Lopez the second, but both of them went undefeated. So we'll go ahead and give them call them the co-champions of the event thus far. Anything that surprises you after looking at this top here before we name off the top 16?
Not having looked at all the players, but two Afanas as co-champions isn't too surprising. We see Caleb with the Sigismar list that we've seen earlier with way too much interaction. I don't remember what all of the Marble was playing.
He was playing the Lindaway, actually, the Lindeve.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's surprising to me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably my biggest surprise. We got to see the end of that game when he was playing Neuro, I believe, and close to the end of one of the matches. So would have been cool to see some of one of those full games, but at least we got to watch a little bit of it. But in the meantime, we can go through the top 16 here. Taggy Fire taking the third place spot. Florganic, which we got to see play a little bit in the fourth. All of the marbles in fifth. Yo taking sixth. Caleb, which we got to watch, and you mentioned with the Sigismar on seventh. Elfer taking eighth. Popeye with the Altered Aces taking ninth. Damien in 10th. Matt U with 11th. H1 Spam, which was the player that was from with the different flag. Was it Cyprus?
Cyprus.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's taken 12th. Hyper K taking 13th. AJT Sabai in 14th. Altered Aces Clam 15th. And rounding out the 16th spot is Chicky Boom. Is that what I'm going to call it? Sweet. Anyway, that is your top 16 so far for the AWOL Season 2 Monday Weekly number 3. Want to thank everyone that's joined us. Any final thoughts as we wrap up the stream, Rune?
No, it was nice to see all the matches, decide what gets featured on the stream, and just give my thoughts on whatever was played here. It was for fun.
Yeah, definitely good to have you on board, getting some insight into what goes behind the mind of a Kesha player that just likes drawing cards. Glad to prevent everyone from having to endure that at least this Monday, this time around. But maybe you'll be back and making everyone say boring in the chat in the future. But past that, I am Blue. You can catch me on all social medias that occasionally pop up down here, but for now, you can just subscribe to Blue Oak TV. It is in the description. I would appreciate it if you do. Rune, why don't you promote yourself and Pandy Andy one more time?
Yeah, you'll find me on Twitch at I'm Runefolk, and of course, as I've said a bunch of times already, I'm more featured on Penny Andy's channel, and and in general, we're doing a lot of AQZ events soon, probably on Penny Andy's channel. So watch out for that. There's definitely more content than I'm doing myself.
Sounds good. And once again, I want to thank everyone that has joined us today. Our biggest stream thus far on the AWOL channel. So I appreciate everyone that participated in that, was in the chat. And honestly, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I'll be sure to check to see if we got any folks that subscribed while we were in the stream, see if we got above 70 at this point. So I appreciate that. And everyone else that is currently still talking on the stream, have a good rest of your evening for all of you EU folks. And for anyone that's in NA that has the day off, enjoy the rest of your afternoon slash early evening. I will be going to eat lunch after this. So, yeah, talk to y'all later. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Love you. Be good. And don't do bad things. Bye.
Bye bye.